Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I am joined today by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my excellent friend Derek.
What's up?
What is up? Welcome everybody back to our Essential Concept series. Today's Magic the Gathering deck archetype is the highly requested Aristocrats. Yes, I'm very excited to do the Aristocrats episode. This week, we're going to review the overall strategy tips for running Aristocrats. And next week, we're going to review lots of excellent cards for this archetype. So, listeners, today's Aristocrats, what other archetypes do we need to address in this series? What other archetypes do you think belong? Take a look up in the corner for the playlist of all of our past Essential Concepts series. We have got a new community member today. This episode goes out to Alexander.
Hey!
Woo, 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 woo. Alexander, thank you so much. He is a new full hardness Metapod member in our YouTube community. If you are interested in becoming a community member and supporting the show, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/MyMythicalMeta. And you can also click join anywhere that our videos are playing on YouTube to enjoy the same perks. Alexander's first question in the Discord, where do I put my deck?
Yes.
Where do I put my deck to be reviewed? So that's definitely a service that we are excited to provide to our patrons and YouTube members, is we will create fully edited deck doctor videos for you. That is just something we love to do. The first question I asked of Alexander was, do you want this to be a no ramp deck or a deck with ramp like normal?
What do you say?
Well, it's a green deck, so I'm assuming he wants ramp like normal.
He wants the master.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Listeners, we are so excited to have more and more community members each week. You can also contact us directly with questions, comments, and news from the Warfront ideas by leaving comments directly on our media, on our shorts, or you can email us at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. And that brings us to the meat of the episode. Today, we'll be tackling an archetype called Aristocrats. Now, this archetype does exist in normal 1v1 Magic, and many of the concepts that we talk about today will apply in both 1v1 and multiplayer, but as per usual on the show, we normally talk about Commander. We normally talk about EDH, and our wheelhouse is definitely brackets 2 and 3. But as we talk later, Aristocrats has a nice way of pushing the envelope. Benjamin, can you tell us a little bit about how the Aristocrats archetype came to be and how it worked in 1v1 Magic?
Yeah, so this archetype gets its name from the original Aristocrats deck that during Return to Ravnica standard, which I really enjoyed that standard. And it had Cartel Aristocrats and Falconwrath Aristocrats as its key cards. So because it was playing 8 Aristocrats, it was called the Aristocrats deck. And then as those rotated but similar decks continued to be in standard, the name just kind of became a shorthand way for any sacrifice value deck. So what it actually does is you strive to gain value and in the game by taking advantage of something that would normally be a drawback, and that is the death of creatures. Your creatures dying normally is a bad thing, but Aristocrats leverages that by playing a bunch of things that gain value. So you'll play a lot of cards that provide rewards at the cost of sacrificing creatures. Things that say sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Sacrifice a creature, gain life. Sacrifice a creature, gain tokens. Or get a land into play, or a treasure token, or your opponents lose life. And so this archetype wants to compile a critical mass of those value generators to put your opponents in a no-win scenario where they can't wipe your board, or they die, or you'll fill your hand and create a board of tokens, but they also can't let you live because you're swinging in with a bunch of cards. And so it's really cool. I enjoy this style a lot, and everyone here has created this style of deck in our meta. And in fact, I think Derek's most powerful deck is an Aristocrats deck.
She might be.
Derek's deck that single-handedly strangle-held the Ascension Classic is Elenda the Dusk Rose, a classic Aristocrats deck.
Yes.
We have a deck tech for that deck. It's available here. But Alenda herself is gaining power from creatures dying. And then when she herself dies, she has yet another trigger that explodes with value onto the board. So just this never-ending cycle. It's a perfect example of this archetype in action.
Yes.
I mean, Derek, what do you have to say about your
love her.
sweetheart, Alenda?
I love her. The name of my deck is called the Phenomenon, and I feel like she really exemplifies all that it is to be the female phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a fun deck. Definitely check out the video. The Aristocrats archetype is going to have some overlap with the Reanimator archetype. You can find that video here in the corner. They both involve creatures moving into and out of the graveyard. And like we talked about with the Reanimator, that one of its main strengths is mana advantage. Aristocrats has that strength simply because all of its cards have low mana cost. Because they require a price to be paid, because they often say, you need to sack a creature for this. You know how creatures are really important parts of winning a game of Magic. So you're going to have to sacrifice a creature for this reward. So that's why they make those cards cheaper. Cards like Village Rites, which say pay 1 mana, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Well, that's what Aristocrats is doing, and they want it to happen because the rest of their deck is going to capitalize on all of those death triggers. It's taking what's supposed to be a bad part, making it good, and all of those cards have low mana costs because of the additional price.
Exploitation's the name of the game.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah, Black says it can do anything at a price. And
Yeah.
the
At a
price
price.
is, and in this case, the price is not mana. Life,
Exactly.
creatures.
The price is
Yeah.
not mana. It's a different resource. And so you're going to be able to have lots of effects on the board because you're paying for the cards from different sources throughout your board. Let's keep going with these pros, with these strengths of the Aristocrats archetype.
Yeah, in the same way that playing a landfall deck might, you might make a landfall deck or you might make a card draw matters type deck. An Aristocrats deck really kind of goes in on, how like creatures always die during the course of a game. Like it always happens, board wipes, target removal, stuff like that. And they want to capitalize on that loss. So it turns a lot of this inevitability and synergy, it gives you value for those things. These things were already going to happen, so you might as well get a reward. And it kind of makes that disparity, you keep creeping up to the top every time someone tries to push you back down because you've said, I'm going to trick the system and I'm going to make, a normally soft spot my toughest part.
Yeah.
And the fun thing about that is that it really creates a strong amount of resiliency. Like most people build a deck saying like, okay, I'll build target removal to destroy any problematic creatures or what have you. But that's just fueling my game plan. So they're going to have to get really creative and maybe just focus on target player removal as best they can because their deck may not have been built in a way that can stop you at any time.
Yeah, something that I loved about your Alenda deck is the sheer number of board wipes in it that we wouldn't normally put in a deck of a different style. And it's because whenever Alenda plays a board wipe, your board state gets better.
Yeah.
You gain more value, you create more tokens, you draw more cards whenever what should be a reset happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so these Aristocrats decks are saying the board wipe, the thing you thought was going to create parity, no, it's actually just going to set me ahead again.
Yeah, it's trying to skyrocket you into a winning, kind of like how we did big mana and you outspin your opponents. This one's going to be like, I'm just going to out resource my opponents. I mean, different resources like creatures or board state or whatever you, but yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool. Something that I have appreciated about looking into Aristocrats for this episode is that there's lots of deck building options. Like, it's certainly clear that white and black have the most Aristocrat support. White because it supports lots of small creatures, and black because it looks for the death of lots of creatures. So those kind of go hand in hand here. But this archetype can be built in nearly any color combination.
Yeah.
The only color that I've noticed that might struggle to do it by itself without the support of other colors would be blue. But red has a lot of its goblin synergy that is going to look for things dying, and green, being the best color in Magic, can do any strategy that it wants also. It can occasionally benefit from some graveyard synergy as well, especially in color combinations like Golgari.
Yes.
So this is really cool that you can kind of do the Aristocrats in any flavor you like. which I think is really exciting.
Yeah. What I think is one of the biggest pros, not necessarily a strength, but a pro of playing Aristocrats, is it's about the closest you can get to a dedicated combo deck in brackets 2 and 3. Right? If you're a Johnny and you're one of those people that likes to build a Rube Goldberg machine and you want to see the synergy with the cards going off and take your long turns.
Yep.
Brackets
The
2 and 3
trigger from here that goes onto here that bounces here that makes this happen. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that in the lower brackets when Wizards is telling you this card is a game changer and you can't have 2-card combos or whatever. You're like, okay, I'm going to make a 4-card combo.
Yeah.
And then there you go, right? It tickles that Johnny bone. Aristocrats doesn't have to be built that way. It can also, it's good for Spikes. It's good for Melvins. I think it can be good for Timmys.
I think my Kresh the Bloodbraided is a Timmy Aristocrats deck because I want to sacrifice like one giant 8-power monster. That's the thing I want to sacrifice in order to gain that value that's based on the creature's power.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the more fun ones. Like, you don't necessarily feel powerful the way a big mana deck or a traditional reanimator deck. You're not putting a bunch of stuff on the board. In fact, oftentimes your board's going to look relatively empty. I have a couple of decks, and if I fill the board, it's with a bunch of 1/1s. It's with, my Mana Dorks and my Solemn Simulacrum have come back into play, and no one's quaking in their boots over that. If you're into like, look at my board state, this isn't necessarily the deck for you, but it goes a different direction. It just feels really good to play because, like Derek was saying, you never feel out of it. That when the game goes long, you have the inevitability. I think it feels good.
Usually with our archetype things, we mention the power trip that goes along with it, especially when we talked about Voltron or when we talked about big mana or spell slinging. And here, the power is kind of more like Shadow Cabal. It's more aristocratic.
Yeah.
It's saying I'm the mastermind of the battle plan.
It's definitely like Death by Dalvin Cuts instead of like, one, big Kamehameha Blast or something like that.
Yeah. Those are a couple strengths. As with all of our archetype videos, it's important to look at some possible weaknesses, some silver bullets, some things you need to look at as you are deciding if you want to try out this archetype or not. And Aristocrats and Reanimator share the weakness of Graveyard Hate. If something denies you your death triggers by replacing them with an exile effect or something like that.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Leyline of the Void. Effects like that are going to absolutely hamstring all the value out from under you. And because we know that Reanimator is so strong of an archetype, it is not uncommon for people to have Graveyard Hate that incidentally hits us in the archetype, hits us in the archetype engine, hits us in the Aristocrat engine, because we need those death triggers. And, targeted Graveyard Hate might not be as detrimental. If somebody says, I'm going to exile your Solemn Simulacrum from your graveyard or whatever, but if they're denying your death triggers, that's definitely something you need to keep in mind. In 1v1, people keep Graveyard Hate in their sideboards. It's just part of the game. And so if somebody successfully lands a Graveyard Hate card against you, then it can really hose your entire game plan.
Yeah, so another con, Aristocrat decks tend to be scary and or telegraphed. Once you see one, you've kind of seen them all. A lot of them share color identities, a lot of the same pieces. So you start seeing the same usual suspects, and you start learning the ins and outs. Like, oh, I know if Travis plays this card, it's going to cause a loop that causes this to happen. It might just cause the game to end. People get wise eventually, and they know like, oh, I have to stop this here, or X, Y, and Z will happen.
Yeah.
So it's just, you got to find ways to diversify your stuff to keep them on the back foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, somebody plays a Blood Artist, which is a 0/1 with this life drain effect, and you're like, it's not going to go off just once.
Right.
That thing is going to go off a bunch, so I need to head it off at the pass.
That's right. They're not playing Blood Artists in their mid-range battle cruiser magic. They're doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't write it down, but since you guys mentioned it, another kind of a glaring weakness is that all these creatures are 1/1, 0/1, stuff like that. A green trampler, he's coming right through it. He does, I don't care. I'm just going to wade through the battle and just wipe it out, and do that enough times on my turn, then what do you have left? Two life or something like
That's
that.
an excellent point.
Yeah,
frankly, I can't believe it's not in our outline.
That's right. Yeah, because this is a strength of these decks, but then it comes into a weakness. One of the most common ways to survive to the late game with an Aristocrats deck is to block and then sack in response. But against these big tramplers like Derek's talking about, that doesn't do anything. You're taking full damage.
You'll reduce the damage
face.
by 1 and then
Yippee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I tend to like the fact that in an Aristocrats deck, I can chunk block for value. But
yeah,
let's see if your friends are all playing Battlecruiser Magic and you haven't set up your engine yet. Yeah, you are the least scary person on board, and they can knock you out before you can get your engine up and running.
And like you mentioned earlier, your board is usually empty or near empty. It's like, hey, that's an easy target to get some triggers for dealing combat damage.
That's right.
Well, Benjamin, tell us about how making the engine, that construction is one of the weaknesses of this archetype as well.
Yeah, our next section is actually about the construction of the engine, but before we get there, just understand that a huge weakness of Aristocrats is that you may not draw the right combination of cards. Now, and we tend to say that a lot, but there are some decks that don't care about that as much. But in an Aristocrats deck, you typically need 3 or 4 different pieces to really start the value train. And before you have assembled all 3 or 4 pieces, your deck's kind of not doing anything. So
there's a ton of moving parts in an Aristocrats deck.
Yeah, in any type of deck like that, it feels bad if you go your whole game without accomplishing anything. You played your mana dork and then followed that up with Phyrexian Altar. Well, you're not going to sacrifice your mana dork for that. So you're like, okay. And then you play Falkenrath Aristocrat and you're like, oh, Stern, I'm not I've got 2 sack outlets and a mana dork and okay, well, my next card is the death payoff. Well, I got nothing to sacrifice. It's just,
yep.
By this time, you're 4 or 5 turns into the game and your board looks terrible. And now, like all of the decks like this can be mitigated somewhat by having a commander that takes care of part of the engine for you, and by having enough deck velocity. Make sure you're playing Scrylands, make sure your early card draw digs you to find the pieces you need. Maybe play a few tutors.
Have card draw in this deck.
Careful mulliganing if you're not doing the Houston mulligan, right? But you got to search for the pieces, and if you're not hitting those pieces, you're not going to have a great time.
Yeah, I feel like, and this is probably the biggest con, it's my opinion, so you guys, say what you got to say.
Okay.
I feel like Aristocrats, an Aristocrat deck is made or won and lost in deck building.
Yes.
If you don't, there's so many little things you have to check. If you don't get those mixtures right, the deck's not going to work no matter what you do, and unless everyone just, kills themselves and you just happen to be the last man standing.
The
deck can't do it unless you have built it correctly.
That's right.
So I think that's a perfect lead in. Benjamin, set us off here.
Yeah.
What is it? What are the pieces to an Aristocrats engine?
So every Aristocrats deck has 3 or 4 pieces that it needs, right? For the rest of this episode, we're kind of going to refer to these as the 4 pillars of an Aristocrats deck, right? You need a sacrifice outlet. You need sacrifice fodder for that outlet. You need something providing death triggers. And optional, but very, very helpful, you need some recursion so that you can reuse your fodder. And those 4 things together make an Aristocrats deck into a powerhouse. I think we're going to turn it over to the master here. Tell us about sacrifice outlets, Dave.
I don't know if I'm the master, but so first you have to have a way to sacrifice. So if you can't sacrifice it, it doesn't get off the ground. So we need cheap ways, ideally free, things like Viscera Seer, things like that. You need them to be at instant speed, again, Viscera Seer. Preferably repeatable, Viscera Seer.
Yeah.
And then, like Viscera Seer, he lets you scry. Just having a way to do it over and over again, getting some kind of value out of it, because I can't tell you how many times I can, maybe like 1 or 2, because I'm aware of this. Like, I'm in the Linda game and I'm looking for the answer. I've got to get the engine going so that way I can draw cards so I can get the answer to win the game. And if I have to pay 1-2 mana per sacrifice, when I need to sacrifice like 30 people to get 30 cards to find the one card I'm looking for, it's
Yeah.
not going to work. I don't have that kind of mana. So
Yeah.
if I can do it for free, that's what's really going to let me snowball
Yep.
into these big game-winning actions.
I will never forget, Derek, that time where it wasn't Ghostly Prison, but it was a creature that had a similar effect.
Yes.
And that's
I
the
remember
one
this one too. That's what I was
and
thinking
that's
of.
the one thing that was stopping you from killing me. And you had over 100 tokens,
Yeah.
but you had that Viscera Seer. And you're like, I don't need to draw my deck. I can use Viscera Seer to scry through the deck and then draw the one card I need.
Yeah, I had one open mana, and I only had, I think, Swords of Plowshare left in my deck that could deal with that creature.
Yeah.
And I think if I would have passed the turn, I would have lost. But Viscera Seer let me churn through my entire deck until I found it, got it, and then I was able to win the game because it was a free sacrifice outlet, free value outlet, these kind of things.
Yeah. I mean,
free in mana cost and being at instant speed, saying, no, I control when my creatures die.
Yes.
You don't get that power over me.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I mean, this, for our viewers, it's the difference between Barrage of Expendables and Goblin Bombardment, right? Where Goblin Bombardment costs 1 extra and it's worth it because, even if you've gotten 20 mana on the board somehow, that limits the sacrifices to 20. Usually, especially in the mid game, that's not enough to kill somebody. If you've got the recursion engine going, a Goblin Bombardment can close the game there.
Barrage of Expendables is absolute garbage compared to Goblin Bombardment.
Yes.
It's awful.
Absolutely.
So, hey, speaking of Goblin Bombardment, Benjamin, bring us into this next pillar.
Yes. So you've put some sacrifice outlets in your deck. Not necessarily too many, because you really only need 1 or 2 on the board at a time. But now you need things to feed into it. You need your cheap creatures. You don't necessarily want to sacrifice creatures that are part of your engine, like Viscera Seer that we were talking about. But in the end game, you can do that. If you can close out the game, then you should. You get your 1 last damage from Goblin Bombardment. But I will say you need lots of fodder. This should be a big chunk of your deck, probably 15 to 20 cards. And
I agree with that.
They can be doing something else too. So that 15 to 20 isn't necessarily going from the core 30 of your deck. Some of these can be some of your ramp pieces, some of your removal pieces or whatever. Typically, your sacrifice fodder is going to come in 3 flavors. You're going to have tokens. So tokens are great because 1 card might give you 3 or 4 things to sacrifice. And so if you have a token engine or a card that makes 3 tokens or something like that, then it's going to help your engine go further. Cheap, enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield creatures. So things that say when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. Well, I'm fine playing that because now it gives me that immediate value and then I can sacrifice it later to my sacrifice engine, right? And then get a trigger off of that. Leave the battlefield trigger, same thing, death triggers. A lot of cards have their own triggers on them. I really like the ones that are like Acidic Slime or Ravenous Chupacabra, right?
Yeah.
Those are going in my removal package and then I can sacrifice them. So those are not necessarily on the cheap end, but they're similar. And then finally, your self-recurring creatures can often close the game for you. So like if you have a Phyrexian Altar and a Gravecrawler,
yeah,
you now have infinite sack fodder, right? And the sack engine to do it. So those are usually going to be where you find your sacrifice fodder. Tokens, cheap creatures that are providing value on their own, and self-recurring creatures.
I want to add that I think Benjamin is right about sacrifice fodder being one of the bigger categories you want to commit to, because this is kind of like backup. If your creatures can do nothing else, they can attack and they can block. They can do the core thing that happens in all Magic games. So even if you're missing everything else, then they can at least be on the board and they can attack and block.
Yeah, to help you stall until you get what you need.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. The next pillar is death triggers, things that grant you value from creatures dying. The one that you will probably hear most often is the life drain. Each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. That's a very common effect in this archetype. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Falconwrath Noble. I mean, that's 3 off the top of my head, and I know there's more. Bastion of Remembrance is another one.
There you go.
So those 4 are probably going to be in just about
deck.
Just about every Aristocrats deck out there.
Yeah.
Because that is your win con. Once you've got the engine, you're going to see your opponent's life totals just trickle down to nothing. I'm not sure that you need 10 of these. I'm not sure that you need 15, because you kind of want to diversify your death triggers. There's card draw. you can have these death triggers fueling your deck velocity by using cards that say, when a creature dies, draw a card. There are several effects out there that do this. And so a board wipe that kills 30 creatures and you get to draw 30 cards from it, it is going to be so hard for your opponents to overcome the selection that you just gained. There are certain cards that can ramp you from death triggers, things that can grant you treasures like Pitiless Plunderer or Revel in Riches. Revel in Riches is a star in Benjamin's Griswold deck. There's also, and I kind of like these, is the Eldrazi Scions and the Spawn Generators.
So good in this archetype.
They're so amazing in Aristocrats because you get to launder the mana gain through a creature death trigger. So you get double duty from these creatures providing mana on their way out, along with whatever other death trigger you've got stacked on top of them. And then, like Benjamin was mentioning earlier, you can staple your interaction in this section too. You can get creature removal, enchantment removal, artifact removal. You can stack all of that into death triggers. You know, a star in my Marin of Clan Nel Toth deck is Caustic Caterpillar, a 1-mana creature that has a sacrifice effect that can destroy an artifact or enchantment. So, poof, I get Spore Frog.
Good old Spore Frog.
Would be an excellent addition to a deck like this because Spore Frog can just Neo its way and save you from all the incoming bullets for a turn.
Yeah.
So you can stack interaction, ramp, card draw, and your win con in the form of life drain. All of these can be within your death triggers. And we think it's definitely smart deck building to diversify. You want some of all of these effects. You don't just want to commit to only one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last category, the last pillar of an Aristocrats deck is recursion. Now, I will say this, it is optional. You can have a totally fine Aristocrats deck that's, say, token-based, that never brings anything back. But I don't recommend it. I think it's highly recommended. It's very synergistic. This will typically be your smallest number of cards in the pillars, but I also think that the right ones, say 5 or 6 of them, the right ones can end the game.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so these are not going to be the same kind of recursion that you would see in a Reanimator deck where you're trying to get a huge creature on the board. Instead, you're looking for either mass recursion, things like Face Reward, that'll just, you put everything in your graveyard and then you put it all back into play. Or things that return, say, all your creatures to your hand, so you just play them all out again. Things like that. So mass recursion is huge. They make for nice, big turns, and then they can win you the game. A Face Reward in the mid or late game can just win the game out of nowhere. Like I said, a closest you can get to a combo deck. It just an instant win. Sacrifice the board, drain you all for 20, Face Reward, do it again.
Do it again.
Do it again, and then game's over. The other kind of recursion you're going to want in here is cheap, repeatable recursion. Things that let you just, if you haven't drawn a bunch of fodder, well, keep getting the same fodder back. So your Phyrexian Reclamation is kind of the exemplar of this, where you can just pay 2 mana to put something back in your hand. Right? Your Caustic Caterpillar, if you're trying to, just loop that over and over, you play it, you sacrifice it, bring it back, play it, sacrifice it, and pick off people's pieces. And so mass recursion and cheap repeatable recursion are the ways to go in an Aristocrats deck.
I agree with you. Whenever you mentioned this, I was like, you know what? You're totally right. I'm not going to really put Reanimate, like just the 1 mana Reanimate in this deck, because what am I going to spend it on?
Right.
Like, no, I want something that can get all of those things back. I like everything in my graveyard all at once, because this is one of those archetypes where it's not about one big impactful thing. You need to get lots and lots of triggers compounding on top of each other in order to get a lot of benefit all at once.
Yeah, the sum is definitely greater than the parts in this deck, right?
Yeah.
A Viscera Seer in a non-Aristocrats deck is just kind of, it's there.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you'll scry, but you'll lose board position as a result. But in an Aristocrats deck, it really goes above and beyond. Reanimate is a great card, but you're not putting it in here.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've looked at the 4 pillars, and just to sum up, those 4 pillars are sacrifice outlets, preferably free, repeatable, instant speed. And then, you know what? I want to pause there. Do y'all think you would play a card that just said, sacrifice a creature, do nothing?
Yes.
Yeah.
If
it was
it
cheap enough.
Yeah, if it costs 0 or maybe
if it was
1.
cheap. Well, considering Viscera Seer costs 1 black and has sack a creature, scry 1, maybe this card costs 1 colorless and says sack a creature, nothing.
Yeah, I think if it was 0 or 1 mana, it might say 0 : sacrifice a creature. That would make more sense as far as formatting. The problem is that it's not a cost, so you have to wait for it to resolve to sacrifice the creature. Usually that won't matter. But if Wizards printed a 0 mana artifact,
especially since it costs 0, right? Because if somebody stifles the effect, you just say, okay, I'll do it again.
Right. Yeah. There is a card that's like destroy target permanent you own. Despotic Scepter. It costs 1 and it's a tap, so it's not repeatable, but it says destroy target permanent you own. It's not very good. But
yeah, I don't think that would be very good.
If it said 0 instead of tap, I think I'd play it. Get no effect.
Interesting. Okay. So anyway, free instant speed repeatable sack outlets, sacrifice fodder. You've got to have meat for the grinder. Death triggers, a variety of death triggers.
Someone to eat the meat.
Yeah, including, your basic vegetable functions of a deck. Card draw, ramp, interaction. You may not need ramp in every deck, as we've discovered. Take a look at this episode to learn about why ramp may not be necessary in every deck. But card draw, ramp, interaction, and then, again, what we think is optional but highly recommended, recursion. Those are your 4 pillars. And now let's talk about some generic strategy tips for aristocrats. What are some things you need to keep in mind when you decide to take this archetype out for a spin? Derek, we're going to start off with you.
Yeah, so the thing about Reanimator and Aristocrats is that black is the color to be in.
Yeah.
If you look at EDH Rex, top Aristocrat commanders, all of them are black in some way. So, I mean, the thing is that black provides everything. It gives you the death triggers, the sacrifice outfits, the fodder. It'll do it all by itself. And it's hard to find that kind of value. Like, other colors could do it, but you're going to have to go through a lot of hoops to do it. Plan to add black to your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Another important strategy tip is because you require all 3 or 4 pillars to make your deck go, you want to either plan to protect it or put in ones that can protect themselves. That's one of the things that made Aristocrats, the original Aristocrats, so good, is because not only were they a sack outlet, but they protected themselves when they sacrificed things. So a great example, if you put in a Yahini, Undying Partisan in your deck, it's a sack outlet, but also it makes itself indestructible when you sacrifice something. Or you put in Cartel Aristocrat, and it gives itself
the namesake of this archetype.
Exactly. It gives itself protection when you sacrifice something. And so what they're doing, it makes those sacrifice outlets resilient. And same thing with payoff. If your payoffs should either be resilient or you should have ways to protect them, or got to dig through your deck to find replacements for the ones that are going. It's important to have ways to either protect or continue to find your engine pieces.
Yeah. We mentioned maximizing your free sack outlets. If at all possible, every sack outlet in your deck should be free and repeatable and at instant speed. Something that I've kind of already mentioned, but I think deserves repeating, is diversify your payoffs. Your deck should not only be Blood Artist style effects. Yes, that's your win con, but I think you will see more success if you can card draw down and hit a little bit of everything. If you can hit your life drain, your draw, your tokens, your ramp, if you can hit all of those things that make a deck better, rather than only hitting one of those death trigger effects, then I think you're going to have a more
balanced breakfast.
Yeah,
exactly. A more balanced experience that is going to feel better to pilot. Because if you only hit the Blood Artist thing and you're like, and kind of like Benjamin was mentioning earlier, if you only hit those and don't get the tokens to sack, or you don't get the card draw, your deck is likely to flounder if you don't have a diversified portfolio of death triggers.
And there will be some opponents who won't die to a Zulaport Cutthroat, either because they've gained too much life or they have protection from black won't necessarily help against Zulaport Cutthroat, but it would help against Blood Artist.
Right.
So there could be any number of players that won't die to that. But if you have card draw or tokens as part of your payoff, or removal and interaction as part of your payoff, then those can help you close out the game when a Blood Artist effect won't do it.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
might be a hot take. We haven't discussed this, but when we say diversify these payoffs or whatever, I also think you should just diversify the way you're doing this. Like, yeah, have some aristocrat payoffs with like card draw, ramp, etc., but also have like normal card draw and ramp
Yes.
on the side, so that way it works independently of the
You're right.
machine. So that way, if you don't draw the right cards, you still have the old stockpile to go to, draw
Yes.
2 cards here, talisman there, whatever, so to help you get to those points to that side later.
Yes.
You know what, Derek? That was an excellent and insightful point that sometimes when we make these outlines, it doesn't come up. But you're right. If I have village rights in hand, but no creature to sack, then I cannot draw those 2 cards, as opposed to Sign in Blood, where I can play it regardless. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I put a lot of those in my decks now, and maybe that attributes to my success. Sometimes, I have, decent decks
Derek's over
lately.
here suffering the price I pay.
Yeah, like the machine is all well and good, but it will fail you eventually. And having ways to get it back on track, re-oil the machine, that it'll help you get there.
Yeah, and that's probably
Very good
true.
point.
Yeah, of every deck. Yeah.
Yeah, every deck should have a few of the staples. It's what makes them staples. Pretty much every deck I play, I will, like, let's say I'm building a white Aristocrats deck, a deck that, like Nethroy, for example. I still throw in Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, there's a lot of removal that's creature based or sacrifice based or whatever, but sometimes you just need to exile somebody's commander, and that's how you're going to do it. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and especially you don't want your card draw to depend on your engine always, because if you haven't set up your engine, you need to dig for it, and card draw is the way to do it. So yeah, that you're absolutely right. Yes.
So Derek, bring us to this next thing.
Yeah, token generators. Let's not forget those. They are what fuel the machine and need to keep it going. So we're going to have lots of ways, and ideally, like we mentioned before, they need to be free. And cards like Bitter Blossom, Indrixar, Ophiomancer, I think.
Yeah. A great card.
Alinda herself, like these cards, once you play them, they are now on a task to generate that fodder for you. You don't have to mess with them anymore. They're just doing their thing, and that's what I like most about those. Now, you still want to have ways to control when you're making fodder and when they're going, but having just like a little economy of little guys getting made over here so we can throw them to the capitalism machine is very nice.
Yes.
Fire and forget type stuff.
Yes.
Send them into the factory.
Yeah,
that's right.
They yearn for the factory.
Yeah. While I agree that tokens are probably the best fodder, I will say that in the higher brackets, you're going to see a lot more Bloodghasts and Grave Crawlers and Reassembling Skeletons, and ones that
absolutely
will eventually set up the loop, right? There's so many combos, especially with Gravecrawler, where your recursive threats, your recursive fodder is what can take your deck from a general value engine to a combo threat. And ultimately, I think it's useful to, when you're building decks like this, value engines, to put in a combo finish. Not necessarily an early one, because an early combo finish obviously moves you to bracket 4. That's part of the definition of bracket 4, is the ability to do cheap early combos. But infinite sack loops, like having a zombie in play and then doing Gravecrawler plus Phyrexian Altar, I mean that ends the game if you've got a payoff. It is that's a 4-card combo, right? You need a zombie, you need a sack outlet, or actually you need Gravecrawler, and you need a payoff of some sort. So it's not a cheap early game infinite, but you got to close the game out somehow. And so
game's got to end.
Game's got to end.
Okay to win the game when you have it.
Yeah, and sometimes someone's playing a life gain deck or whatever, and you need to chew through a billion life, and a combo finish is the only way you're going to do it. So add some of those things and know them. Know the line.
Gotta practice them.
Yeah. Say, okay, I wanted this to be bracket 2 or bracket 3, so the only way I can go infinite is with these 6 cards. Recognize that. Like, I have 4 of these cards in play. Maybe I should start Viscera seeing through my deck to see if I can find those other 2.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
See if you can close it out.
Yeah.
As we've been talking about the pillars, here's just a reminder that if you're playing Commander, look for a commander that serves one of those pillars, or 2.
Yeah.
Or 3. If your commander can serve that purpose well, then you can build your deck in a way that supports the other pillars. Because when you're playing commander, that's the whole point, is that you have this effect at the ready. You can always bring it back. So when you're choosing an Aristocrats commander, make sure that it does at least one of these 4 pillars well. Because if it does not sack creatures, if it does not create creatures, if it doesn't provide death triggers or recur creatures, then it's probably not really suited for this archetype. Whatever your commander does, if it's doing one of these 4 pillars, then that means you can go lighter on that pillar in the rest of your 99 cards.
Yeah, great examples are some of the ones in our deck. Like I have a Nethroi deck. Nethroi reanimates creatures. I don't have a whole lot of other reanimation in that deck. I mean, I have a few key ones that I go search for, but Nethroid's doing the heavy lifting on that, right? With Alinda, right, it creates tokens. You don't have a whole lot of token makers in there, right?
I don't think so. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think there's 1 or 2 creatures that are diet Alinda.
Yeah.
There's 1 or 2 creatures that also explode into more creatures when they die.
Yeah. There's Alinda's Hierophant. I think there's a Grave Titan. I mean, there are token generators and little garbage creatures to sack, because I can't just rely on Alinda in case she becomes uncastable for whatever reason.
Right.
But she does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah. And then an important strategy tip for deck building. Like Derek said earlier, deck building is where you win or lose in Aristocrats. And let's say that you've decided you're going with a token build and you're going to build a bunch of tokens, like my Griswold deck, right? It's really easy to want to put in your token doublers, your anthems, and those are going to lead you astray. You're trying to build an engine with 4 or 5 cards on the battlefield. If you're adding a token doubler, that's taking the place of a sack outlet or a death trigger or something. Yeah, you want some of your basic cards, like maybe you want ramp in some way, but you know, a mana rock, as tempting as it might be, should probably just be a mana dork that you can sacrifice in the late game for value. So just as you're looking at cards, don't...
I want to throw this in. I love Viridian Emissary.
Yes.
When it dies, you get to search a land.
Yes. Well, okay, that's a great example here. It's real easy to make, if you're running green in your Aristocrats deck, there's a bunch of green creatures that when they enter the battlefield or die, go fetch a land. You might be tempted to start putting landfall stuff in your deck.
Yeah. Oh, I should put a Spore Mound in there.
Yeah.
It's a trick.
Yeah. I should put Zendikar's Royal in here. That way, when it dies, I can get another token because of the landfall.
Yeah.
Keep your eye on the prize.
Exactly. That's
a trap. Yeah.
An Aristocrats
You'll
deck.
end up doing 2 things bad instead of 1 thing good.
Yes. Aristocrats needs to be focused. You can balance the pieces in different ways. More or fewer sack outlets, more or fewer fodder, more or fewer trigger cards, or whatever you're doing. But it needs to all be within those pillars, because if you get distracted, you've just made 2 half decks that are bad. Yeah.
Yep. You just made a 2010s era commander deck.
Yes.
Commander Precon. Right. A 2010s era.
Maybe slightly better because it's not 3 things.
That's right. Those were always three themes at once.
Ooh. Yeah, just as Benjamin just said, almost all of your ramp, card draw, and interaction should be based on your death trigger stuff.
At the end of the day, make something do 2 things at once. That's what you want. If you have your fodder, make sure it's drawing you cards or getting you life or dealing damage or whatever. Have your sack outlets doing the same. Like that's how you win these games, just doing 2 things at once.
That's right. And so a big strategy tip here is making sure that most of your effects are on creatures. They don't even have to be cheap creatures, but like you mentioned Grave Titan earlier, it's on a creature. In a pinch, you can sacrifice Grave Titan to get another trigger somewhere. Your removal, it's good to have some instant speed removal and whatever, but for the most part, stick them on a Ravenous Chupacabra or a Big Game Hunter or things like that, right? We mentioned Sign in Blood, but actually there's a ton of creatures that say when they enter the battlefield, draw a card. Those are great because they'll give you your deck velocity and then you can sack them later. So as much as possible, stick effects on creatures, preferably cheap creatures. They don't have to have good bodies. You don't care about their body. 0/1s that provide you mana, perfect, right? They may not see play anywhere else because they don't do enough, but if it's a 1 or 2 mana creature that'll provide an effect you need, often is going to be better than the instant that does the same thing. Not always. There's a time and place, for instance, but often.
That is one more thing that I wanted to mention. We briefly touched on it earlier. You know, as you are assembling your engine, you don't want to sacrifice engine pieces, but don't be afraid to do so if you can get one more trigger or end the game with it. You know, if sacrificing that last blood artist to your goblin bombardment can win the game, do that. Like, it doesn't matter how that last one damage gets dealt. You know, you can feel free to sacrifice your board presence if the end of the game is within your grasp.
Yeah. Aristocrats takes practice, because sometimes the line will be use your goblin bombardment to ping a creature so that your Falkenrath aristocrats can get in for the kill. And sometimes that means sacrificing your blood artist to the goblin bombardment. And you're like, I have no more payoffs from these sack outlets. Yeah, but now you can hit for 4 to finish them off.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're taking risks because this whole deck is about creating and then destroying your board presence. And so you're kind of living on the edge, and you need to be knowing your lines makes the edge less scary. It's like putting up the rails. You know where the trail is so you don't fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
Because sometimes taking an extra turn because you didn't want to sacrifice that thing is all your opponents needed to get out of it, to gain it a little bit of extra life.
The last card they needed to draw to end you. Yeah.
It happens so often too.
Yeah.
Seize victory when you can.
To be within one turn of winning and
Yes.
somebody else wins instead. Yeah. So let's do some wrap up. This is a really awesome archetype. Like Derek said before, I never feel like when I'm playing this or playing against it, I never feel like they're out of the game. I can't trust them. Because if they're saying, man, I got nothing, but they've played their land per turn and we're on turn 6, they can do it.
Yes.
They can easily do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be on your toes. Do y'all have any final remarks for the Aristocrats archetype?
Nothing on my end.
No, everybody should have one. I think we say that about all our archetypes.
Yeah.
I'm going to step back. Not everyone needs to have one that they play constantly. Some people will not like this style of deck because this is your gateway into combo play. Right? This
Agreed.
is, and some people won't like it, and some people won't like playing against it, especially if it leans closer to combo play. But this is one of those decks that will make you better at Magic because you learn how to play. You have to learn how to manipulate the stack. When, where are the steps in combat where you can block and then sack and get value and things like that. How to, especially if you've got like Grave Pact in play and a Bloodghast. How are you going to order your play? Sequencing matters in this type of deck. Yeah. And so I think this is a really good one for intermediate players to get better.
Yeah, to piggyback off of Benjamin said, I feel absolutely drained after playing an Aristocrat deck, but boy, I feel like I've really done something. When we say like it makes you a better player, you're having to think about, what am I about to do 4 turns from now? Like, I have to get this piece here to get that piece there, so that way I can do this next turn and then do that. It's like you're just constantly thinking ahead, and you're not really concerned about the here and now. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of brain power, and I think it will make you a better Magic player by practicing it.
I totally agree. It's very similar to Spellslinger in that way, or playing Control. I absolutely agree with what you guys said. I think practicing with a deck like this can make you a better Magic player. Next week, we will come back with cards for Aristocrats. We will look at some great beginner commanders that lend themselves easily to this archetype, and we will look at cards that serve all of those vegetable functions. Ramp, card draw, interaction, some good lands for this archetype as well. These are cards that will make your deck feel more aristocrat-y while they are still doing the regular thing that all decks need to do. And we will talk about ramp, even though your deck may not need ramp. But we'll still talk about it anyway.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember that if you're interested in supporting the show, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/My Mythical Meta, or by clicking join anywhere on YouTube that this video is playing. Click join, become a full hardness metapod if you want all of the same perks as our Patreon. If you've made it to the end of the show, comment, when I die, blank happens. Give yourself a death trigger. Is there a way you can put that in a YouTube comment that won't get blocked by the algorithm? Don't say kill, but put when I die blank. When I am removed. Here we go. When I am removed from the battlefield, do blank.
We should do that for ourselves. When Ben leaves the battlefield, I have good life insurance. When Ben leaves the battlefield, create 5 treasure tokens.
There we go. That's a good one. Mine is when Travis leaves the battlefield, sacrifice 3 lands, create 3 treasures.
That's
Mine
terrible.
would be-
That's all the junk I have in my house that you're gonna have to dispose of.
Mine would be when I die, destroy all CEO characters.
Destroy all advisors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put them in the trash.
So if you made it to the end of the episode, give yourself a death trigger in the comments. And obviously, tell us what your favorite Aristocrats commander is. If you have an Aristocrats commander, let us know about it. We want to hear about it. If you have recommendation of cards that should be in our cards episode, tell us what cards you think deserve to be in that episode also. Because I have had a few episodes in the past where we talk about the beginner commanders we love, and we've got the comments that are saying, I can't believe you missed blank. So let's prepare you guys for that. It's coming. If there's a creature near and dear to your heart, let us know so we can include them in the card showcase episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Benjamin, Derek, thank you guys, of course, for being my excellent friends. Adios. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my excellent friend Derek.
Hello.
What is up? Today we are showcasing the specific cards you should search for, the Aristocrats archetype. And guys, there are so many. It was difficult to actually single cards out and make a list because in every category they were like, well, we should list 20 cards.
I mean, all indications point to this is Magic the way Richard Garfield intended.
Absolutely.
Because they make so many cards for it.
They make so many cards for this archetype in every set. This is a very well-supported archetype. And we're going to get to those cards and some good beginner commanders in just a minute after our community shout-outs. We've got 2 new members in our Patreon this week. Shout out to Sacco Potato and Brandon. Thank you both, Sacco Potato and Brandon. Sacco Potato started following us at a con a long time ago. So seeing that name in the Patreon really got me excited because it means, you know, this guy liked us a long time ago and has decided we're good enough to support. And we are, of course, so thankful. And Brandon, thank you too. We're so glad that both of you have decided to take the leap of faith and support us. And we hope that we can continue giving tips that create strong, friendly metas. And our Discord is becoming a strong and friendly meta. And that's really exciting. If you, listener, want information about our Patreon perks, you can go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can also click join anywhere that our videos are playing on YouTube in order to become a full hardness metapod. You can contact us directly with questions and requests at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. And listeners, new subscriber push, stretch goal time. It is stretch goal time. We met 1K listeners on YouTube, and so now our next goal before the end of this year, and I think we can do it, we want 2K followers on Spotify. That means that we want all of our listeners take us on the go. Take us on the go. Put us in your car. Put us on your phone. Whatever podcast platform you use, our RSS feed is hosted on Spotify. And we want to reach 2K. I think we can do it. We want to reach 2K before the end of the year. Okay, let's jump straight into the Aristocrats archetype. And we're going to begin with commanders that we think are good for beginners. Here are some great legendary creatures that we think exemplify this archetype and can do it well. And Derek is going to start us off. Go ahead.
Yeah, the first one we have is Teysa Karlov. She's white, black, and 2. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Then she has an ability. Creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink. What makes her such a great Aristocrats commander is that she basically cuts your strategy to win in half. Because she's going to be doubling up on your ping triggers to deal like 1 damage or whatever, getting you double card draw, double ramp, you know, things like that. And then also, when you're making these tokens, she's giving them vigilance and lifelink, which are both very good defensive abilities to help you fortify and make sure you're not like shields down, like, oh, let me block and then I'll sack it in response. don't take any damage, or maybe I do and I get a little lifelink back to save my life. There's a lot of flexibility here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Those tokens having vigilance and lifelink is so defensive because you can just block, gain the life, let the creature die, and then get double the death triggers from those little tokens dying. She really is pulling a lot of weight in terms of being an Aristocrats commander. My only concern and my only warning for new players is that Teysa is not a pillar of aristocracy herself. Her
That's right.
abilities are not a sack outlet, a fodder creator, a death trigger itself. Like, if a creature dies with only her on the battlefield, nothing else happens.
Yeah.
Right? Nor is she recursion. So she herself does not hit one of those pillars, but as soon as
she's
you can
just making a good deck better.
Yeah, as soon as you can start building the rest of those pillars up, she is, just like you said, Derek, is going to speed you towards victory, because all the value you're going to gain is going to be double. Insane. So just about all of our beginner commanders today have black in them, and that is to be expected because black has all of the pieces you need. But we did try to find some where a bunch of different colors were represented. And here's Savra, Queen of the Golgari. She costs 2 black and green for a 2/2 elf shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a black creature, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, each other player sacrifices a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a green creature, you may gain 2 life. So Savra is looking for you to sacrifice a mix of black and green creatures. What's really cool is if you can have both black and green creatures.
That's right.
And there are a couple of these. Insects, worms, pests. That would be really great to be able to sacrifice both, because you can gain the 2 life if it's green, you can pay the 2 life and bang one of your opponent's creatures if the creature's black. By doing this often, you can keep your opponent's boards clear of their threats. If an opponent is running a token build themselves, you may not be able to keep up. You know, if somebody's got a Voltron or if somebody's got 5 or 6 creatures out on their board, Savra can do some really good work to keep that minimized and keep your own life total at a safe level until you can secure the win by sacrificing those green creatures. All right, do the next one.
Yeah, next we have the Fallout Commander Caesar, Legion's Emperor. This is red, white, black, and 1. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. Whenever you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. Next, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Next, Caesar's Legion's Emperor deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So, I mean, already he's you know, with those pillars we're talking about, he can let you draw cards, which is always great to kind of shore up any weaknesses. He's creating tokens, and he's got a little bit of a win con stapled on him too. And if you give himself multiple combats, it's over and over. I mean, this guy is for 4 mana, this guy's doing a lot for your team in your aristocrat strategy.
And it's important, since this is for beginners, you do not have to attack with Caesar. It says whenever you attack. So you can play him on turn 4 and swing with your 3-drop and even sack the 3-drop to get the party started. So very
it's very cool. Caesar's insane. I love this Mardu representation to show that, you know, just because you're aristocrats doesn't mean it's all defense. You can have an offensive, aggressive aristocrats strategy also.
I think what I like about him the most is that this was a pre-con deck. I don't know if it's still available, but you could probably find it on Amazon or maybe in a store somewhere. So if you're just trying to dip your toe, you know, maybe you could still get your hands on this pre-con and have the shell of a deck to upgrade.
Absolutely. All right, Benjamin.
Yeah,
next ones.
Man, Jund is the color for aristocrats. I mean, Jund's quite possibly the most fun colored combination to play. That's black, red, and green. And I've got a couple of dragons you can use if you want to play aristocrats in Jund. So the first is Prosh, Skyraider of Care, and then the other is Corvald, Fey Cursed King. Both of them provide a way for you to sacrifice creatures, so they're your sacrifice outlet in the command zone, knocking out one of those pillars. And then one of them also provides fodder. So Prosh, Skyraider of Care, is a 5/5 dragon that when it enters, you create X red kobold creature tokens, where X is the amount of mana you spent to cast him. So the first time, he's a 6-drop. So the first time you're going to get 6 tokens. That's a lot of fodder.
That is a lot.
Yes. And his sack outlet says you can sacrifice another creature to give him +1/+0 till the end of turn. So he also serves as a win con. You can sacrifice boost him, hit for commander damage. The great thing is if they kill him and you have to pay commander tax, that also contributes to the tokens. So when you play him for 8, you get 8 tokens. When you play him for 10, you're going to get 10 tokens. It's really good.
He gets better and better the longer the game goes.
So he provides the fodder and the sack outlet. It's really good. Corvold provides a sack outlet. It's a little different. It's only when he attacks, but instead he gives
enters.
you the
when he enters and attacks.
Right. When he enters and attacks, that's when you get to sacrifice something, another permanent. When you sacrifice a permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on Corvold and you draw a card. So he's that death trigger that you're looking for as another pillar. So he gives you a way to sacrifice things, but it doesn't matter if you're sacrificing things to Phyrexian Altar, if you're sacrificing a Sakura Tri-Builder, whatever you're doing.
Cracking and Evolving Wilds.
Exactly. He's drawing you cards and he's getting bigger. So once again, he's your death trigger and your win con. So both of these are very, very similar. One gives you fodder and one gives you triggers. Both give you sack outlets and both get huge so you can swing in for commander damage. Very, very, very fun commanders. They can both be built very similarly. And one of the great things is they really scale with brackets. If you're getting into Aristocrats and you're thinking bracket 2, bracket 3, these are good. But especially Prosh can easily be ported all the way up to bracket 5 because Prosh plus Food Chain is a well-known infinite combo. So easily, both of these are very fun and very high-powered commanders for this archetype.
Yeah. Our last beginner commander for this archetype is Marchesa the Black Rose. Long may she reign. And we have a little bit of blue representation here. I wanted to make sure we found what I think is probably blue's best representation in this archetype is Marchesa the Black Rose. So she gives all creatures you control dethrone, which means if they attack the player with the most life, they get a +1/+1 counter. Her other ability is that whenever a creature you control that has a +1/+1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So she is giving all of the creatures a way to get the +1/+1 counter so that all of your creatures can jump right back. So let your creatures swing at whoever has the most life. You know, it doesn't matter if they block and kill it, then you get that creature's death trigger and that creature's enter trigger with impunity. You know, there's no risk. There's no risk involved to going after the person that has more life than going after the person at the table that has the most life. So again, constant into and out of the graveyard is a great way for the Aristocrat strategy to start seeing a bunch of those death triggers and gaining you value.
Yeah, and I love Randy's Marchesa deck. He's got so many ways to just give things counters when they enter that basically all of his stuff is unkillable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It returns. It's
every
already
turn.
Every turn.
He'll
the whole board flops back into play. And you're just like, board wipe, everything comes back.
That's during my turn. And then during Benjamin's turn, he does it again. And then during Derek's turn, he does it again. It's crazy.
Yeah. Insane value. It's very
Plus,
good.
Blue's got a lot of good counter synergy. So, like Herald the Secret Stream, so he's hitting you unblocked.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
It's hard.
So just because Blue doesn't have much Aristocrats representation, I think Marchesa is doing a lot of heavy lifting and saying, hey, we can do it too.
That's right.
Very cool. We, of course, want to do a shout out to the Aristocrats decks of our past. Like we said last episode, we all have built the Aristocrats archetype. It's tons of fun, and we've done it in many different ways. So each of us are going to shout out and give a super brief description of our past Aristocrats decks. And we mentioned last episode that Aristocrats can work for any psychographic, even Timmy's. And that's what my Kresh the Bloodbraided deck feels like. Kresh the Bloodbraided may have been my first commander deck.
I think so. The first
I
one
think
you
it was
built
my
yourself,
first one ever because I remember building it and bringing it to your house in San Angelo while I lived in Alpine. So Kresh the Bloodbraided is Jund. He costs 2 black, red, green. Whenever another creature dies, you may put X +1/+1 counters on Kresh the Bloodbraided, where X is that creature's power. So Kresh himself is a death trigger that's constantly growing whenever he sees other creatures die. And in my most recent iteration of Kresh the Bloodbraided, I have it full of sack outlets, and then lots of cards that steal my opponent's creatures. So I'll steal my opponent's creatures for a turn, sacrifice it, Kresh will get bigger. So, and that's kind of
Gross.
how my Kresh the Bloodbraided works. Another Aristocrats tool that Kresh has is a lot of fling effects. If I have a big creature, I can sacrifice it, throw it directly at an opponent. And then the rest of the deck is the rest of those pillars. It's getting me cards, it's getting me ramp and things like that whenever I sacrifice a creature. I really am a huge fan of my Kresh the Bloodbraided deck. All right, Derek, your turn.
Yeah. Here's one of my favorite creatures is Alinda the Dusk Rose. We've got a deck tech of it. I feel like every time we talk about some kind of aristocrats or strategy like this, Alinda gets mentioned. They say she's my best commander. I think she's very good. I don't know if I've ever lost with her. She is doing a lot. She's got lifelink. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Alinda. And then when she dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink where X is her power. She is just harvesting all the death triggers from the entire battlefield, your opponents included, getting stronger. And then what I'm doing is I'm playing more board wipes than a normal deck would probably have, because I don't care if Alinda gets killed at this point. Or I'm playing board wipes that like, oh, I'll save one creature. So I'll save Alinda, or I'll save a different creature and let Alinda die, and just flood the board with tokens. She's one of those pillars we're talking about where she's all about token making, and she also has the payoff of, you know, getting bigger herself, where I could kill someone with commander damage, plus having lifelink on top of that when she's huge, and all your little vampires have a lifelink.
That's what annoys me so much. Like, I don't mind her lifelink as much, but all of the 1/1 vampires she makes also have lifelink.
Yeah.
So hard to chew through.
I mean, I feel like every time we play that, I play with Alinda, you know, I end up with 80, 100 health by the end of it, probably like 100 tokens. It's a very hard deck to shut down.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, Benjamin, tell us about yours.
All right, so mine is Nethroi, Apex of Death, which is a 5/5 legendary creature with Death Touch and Lifelink. Whenever it mutates, return any number of creature cards with power 10 or less from my graveyard to the battlefield.
Total power 10 or less.
Total power, yes, total power. Yeah. But secretly, this is actually a Shirray Shizo's Caretaker secret commander. So Shirray is in the 99, and the whole point of the deck is to get Shirray out. So what Nethroi does for me is Nethroi is the recursion, and so is Shirray. It's double recursion in the command zone. So that's the fourth pillar of the Aristocrats archetype. Everything else in the deck is basically fodder that meets Shiray's condition of power 1 or less, and then a bunch of triggers. Bunch of triggers.
So many triggers.
And the idea is I sacrifice everything every turn and bring it all back. And so at the end of my turn, bring all my stuff back. Then at the end of Travis's turn, sacrifice everything. It all comes back to Shiray's trigger, and just keep doing that. And then if Shirray ever dies, cast Nethroi.
Insane.
Get Shirray back, and also some fodder to keep the thing going. Nethroi doesn't often get cast unless I need to recur something. So I have a bunch of tutors to get Shirray. It's not necessarily winning, because it definitely turns you into the arch enemy, and it's a little weak to graveyard hate. But if you like taking long turns, you like, if you like making everybody's turn long, because it's like you get 4 turns every go around, because you get to do your thing on everyone's turn until they stop you. It's pretty fun.
Absolutely crazy. And one of the comments from last week's video, they mentioned
Shirray
Shizo's Caretaker. So I made sure to let them know he definitely has the special mention this episode.
Yes.
That recursion ability is nuts.
And so with the deck, a lot of those 1-power creatures that are the fodder are the like 1 mana white spells, white creatures that say sacrifice to give something indestructible, sacrifice to give something protection. And that way it's really hard to kill Shirray, because you use that, and at end of turn, while Shiray's still indestructible, you bring it back again. So that's a big chunk of the deck. A lot of those little creatures that sacrifice themselves to get down,
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Awesome. So those were some beginner commanders and the commanders from our past. We think these are a great way to experiment with the Aristocrats archetype. In the comments, let us know more. If you have a special Aristocrat commander near and dear to your heart that we missed, tell us. And tell us what makes it great for beginners or someone trying out this archetype for the first time. For the rest of this episode, we're going to look at our different essential deck building categories. So things like ramp, card draw, removal and interaction, and of course, the essential synergy cards for this archetype. And we're going to talk about how, what we say often on the show, you want as many of the cards in your deck as possible to be doing double duty.
Yes.
We want it to ramp and do an Aristocrats thing. We want it to draw a card and have a death trigger to provide to get value elsewhere on the board. And so that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it will definitely help. Now, realize that these are not the only cards you should be putting in your deck. Derek mentioned this last episode, and I thought it was excellent advice that you don't want all of your card draw to depend on your deck doing its thing. You don't want all of your ramp to depend on the deck doing its thing. You should put in, the essentials in each category, just a simple Sign in Blood or Phyrexian Arena or something like that to just make sure you're hitting your cards every turn. Your normal if you're going to ramp, your 2 mana green spells, your mana rocks. Some of the basics, but instead of having, say, 12 mana rocks, if you have 6 mana rocks plus some of the ramp that we suggest, your deck will feel more in line with what your deck wants to do. It will feel, in this case, more like Aristocrats. So
sounds good. So our first category is lands. There are some great lands that facilitate the Aristocrats archetype very well, and Benjamin's going to show us those.
Yeah, so my favorite is Phyrexian Tower. Phyrexian Tower, yeah, it comes down, it taps for colorless, comes in untapped, but if you have creature fodder, you can tap and sacrifice it to add 2 black. And that's just a really, really powerful ability to be able to add an extra for the low cost of sacking a token or some other creature you don't need anymore. Get yourself an extra mana. It's great. Others, I really like High Market. It's another free sack outlet. Again, it's a colorless land that comes in untapped, but then you can sack a creature to gain a life. It's real nice to have one more way to sack a creature. And then Grim Backwoods is actually really good. Once again, a colorless land that comes in untapped. But if you pay 2 black-green, sacrifice a creature, you can draw a card. And having your card draw on a land really frees up some deck space. And having a sack outlet on a land frees up deck space. And that's what all of these lands do.
Absolutely. I just want to mention with Phyrexian Tower, what a great way to convert one resource you have, creatures, into a different resource you need, mana.
Yeah.
Like to just be able to trade them, and as you'll see throughout the rest of these cards, as a way to convert these creature tokens into different resources throughout the board and different board needs. That is what Aristocrats is all about.
That's right. Yep.
Our next category is ramp. And the first ones I'm going to talk about are the 2 altars, Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. They both have sacrifice a creature, : so add instant speed, repeatable as many times as you want. You can sacrifice a creature. Ashnod's Altar adds 2 colorless mana. Phyrexian Altar adds a mana of a color, of any color you need. These are so good. We mentioned last episode the infinite combos available with things like Gravecrawler and Phyrexian Altar. To just be able to cast him over and over and over again. Sacrifice him for a black, spend that black to cast it again. Like, it's really, really cool. Next one.
All right, the next category of ramp is going to be creatures that enter the battlefield and get you a land. So the one I really want to showcase here is Satyr Wayfinder. It says when this creature enters, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You can put a land into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. That one I like because it fills the graveyard, but there's plenty of others that say when it enters, either put a land in your hand or put a land on the battlefield tap. Usually they're 2 or 3 mana to do that. Otherwise, cheap creatures that can then be sacked for whatever you want after. And if you've got the recursion engine going, you're getting a bunch of lands out of your deck. So it's really nice to have a set of creatures like that.
Yep. The next one is some death triggers. Mana we can make from our creatures dying. We've got Pitiless Plunderer and Pawn of Ulamog. Pitiless Plunderer is a pirate who says whenever a creature you control dies, create a treasure token. So again, we are converting creatures into mana. Pawn of Ulamog looks for only non-token creatures dying, but I think you're going to find that that's not a problem.
No.
Like, sacrificing tokens or non-tokens is fine for most Aristocrats decks. Pawn of Ulamog says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you can create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn. What's great about those spawns is that they have their own sacrifice effect, where they can be sacrificed to add 1 colorless. So again, you are getting a mana, but it's through another death trigger first. So you're going to get that mana after getting 2 death triggers. I like to call it money laundering. You get to mana launder that 1 colorless mana through another creature first, through the Eldrazi spawn. Really, really cool. All right, next one. Next category.
Yeah, we think mana dorks in general are a great way to do it. They come down super cheap, like Land of War Elves, 1 green mana. They come out, they do their purpose, give you mana, and then when you're ready, sacrifice them. And they're usually 1/1s. Like I said, they're 1 mana usually. Get them back real cheap, real easy, and just keep doing it again. They provide the mana to just keep the ball rolling.
Yeah,
and then
they provide the mana for those early starts.
Yes,
if you want to get your commander out on turn 3 instead of turn 4, well, your dork can do it, and now that your commander's out, you can sack it, and it's fine.
Yeah. And a special shout out to Secure Tribuilder. This is a green 1 Snake Shaman that can sacrifice itself to go search directly for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. I like this guy because he sacrifices himself for free, and it could be at any point that I choose, and I can also use him to chump block like we do all the time and sacrifice in response.
Yeah, and his sacrifice is a death trigger that other people can see. Absolutely. All right, Benjamin, you made a specific point to add this one on. Tell us about it.
Yes. So I think there are more than this, but this is one of my favorite ones, and it's Perilous Forays. So it is a repeatable sack outlet. It's an enchantment for 5 mana. It says 1 and sacrifice a creature to search your library for a land card with a basic land type and put it into play tapped. Importantly, this can fetch triomes. This can fetch all your good dual lands and put those into play tapped.
I had not noticed that when you added it to the list.
I didn't either.
I thought it was just search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped, which still would be good, by the way.
It still would be good, but what's great is in the late game when you're trying to repeatably sack things, this 1 mana to sack is actually kind of a drawback, except that you can, over the course of a few turns, get pretty much all of the lands out of your deck, because it's not just the basics. It's also all of the lands you were using to fix your dual lands and your triomes. Perilous Forays can take you from, say, 6 mana, because maybe the turn after you play it, to 10 or 11 mana, and really, really launch you into the late game. And you can still sack the creature even if you have no lands left in your deck. So it is also a repeatable sack outlet that you can keep using.
Very cool. These last 2 on our list are kind of burst mana. They can end up getting you lots of mana rather than just 1 or 2 mana at a time. The first is Black Market, an enchantment for 3 black. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market, and then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black for each charge counter on Black Market. So after a board wipe, the next turn, it could add 10 black mana to your mana pool at the beginning of your first main phase. So it's really cool, and it's just looking for any creature, which is something that I think is so powerful about it. The next one we have is Mahadi Emporium Master. For 1 black and red, he's a 3/3 cat devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So Mahadi is just watching you throughout your turn to see how many of your creatures died. How many creatures did you sacrifice or whatever? Very cool. I think that's really, really good. And for only 3 mana, I think that's a bargain. Yeah. All right. Our next category is card draw, deck velocity. Benjamin, start us off here.
Man, I love
the most
these
common
cards.
one.
Yeah, the most common one is going to be whenever a creature dies, draw a card. There's so many, and I'm just going to name off a whole bunch, but they all basically do the same thing. Grim Haruspex, it says whenever a non-creature you control dies, draw a card. Midnight Reaper, whenever
you mean non-token creature.
What did I say?
You said whenever a non-creature you control dies.
No, non-token creature. Yeah, Grim Haruspex, Midnight Reaper both do that. Liliana says whenever a creature, Liliana Dreadhorde General, that's the 6 mana Liliana. Whenever a creature you control dies, so that includes tokens, draw a card. There's Fecundity, which is whenever a creature dies, its controller may draw a card. That may or may not be good in your meta. You can make that decision. And then Moldervine Reclamation. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and draw a card, which I kind of like because a lot of these, like say Midnight Reaper, deals damage to you or you lose a life. I think there's another one that's like something Prophecy.
Dark Prophecy.
Dark Prophecy is whenever a creature you control dies, lose life and draw a card. So a lot of them lose life. So Moldervine Reclamation can get you back some of that life. But there's a whole bunch more too. This is a very, very common effect. Just find the ones you like and stick them in your deck. This is a staple of this archetype.
I wanted to offer Fecundity because it only costs 3. It only costs 3 in
really
green.
Good.
It requires no black. It only requires green. And if you're building your deck to know that you are going to have more death in your deck than your opponents are, then you know that you'll stay ahead. You'll stay ahead in terms of cards. But like Benjamin said, you should consider your meta. Are your opponents, are the people you play with often playing decks like this, like Aristocrats? Then maybe don't use Fecundity and use something else. Another thing about Liliana Dreadhorde General is don't forget about all the rest of her abilities.
That's right. Oh, yes. She probably
There's a reason she cost 6.
Yeah, she probably deserved her own category, but she's in this category because you put her in there because she can immediately draw you a bunch of cards because every time a creature dies, she draws a card. But she also creates zombie tokens. She also can make each player sacrifice creatures, which is great because you can get draw cards off of, right? Each player sacrificing 2 creatures. Well, you're going to draw 2 cards off of that. Yeah. And you go. And then of course her ultimate makes everyone go down to 1 permanent of each type.
Brutal. Derek, do our next category.
Yeah, next we have these kind of cards that I feel are kind of unrepresented out there. I had an Exodus or Reek Overlord deck that really kind of exploited these cards, and I wanted to share the wealth that they might not otherwise get. These are cards like Corrupted Conviction and Village Rites. They identical cards. They're both instants that cost 1 black mana. They both have, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. So just to cast the spell, we're sacrificing a creature. And for doing all that, we get to draw 2 cards. It's not going to do anything if you don't have the creatures to sacrifice. But assuming, you have a good board presence, 1 black mana and getting a death trigger, which I want to do already, to draw 2 cards, whoo, I'm having my cake and eating it too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like in your head, you have to think, this card says 1 black mana, get all your death triggers, draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
Like it's not pay 1 black mana, sack a creature. It's pay 1 black mana, sack a creature, get all of your death triggers, draw 2 cards. That makes 1 black mana go a lot farther.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is Skull Clamp. Oh my gosh. Skull Clamp is an overperformer. It costs 1 mana for an equipment that says equipped creature gets +1, -1. Oh dear. I certainly hope my creature doesn't die. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Yes, please. I'm going to send my Skull Clamp like a train through all of my tokens.
Yeah.
And I'm going to draw cards for each one. Yeah, it's very, very good. Next one, Derek.
Next, I want to talk about Diabolic Intent. This is a sorcery tutor for a black and 1 to, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, more upside, and you just tutor for a card, put it in your hand. Shelf your library. Easy, love it, get all your death triggers. What's to say about it?
About $10. So if you're looking for a tutor that is not $20, $30, $50, and you want a $10 tutor, you can go with Diabolic Intent and sack a creature for
or proxy it.
Or proxy.
Free.
Absolutely. And just like before, I wanted to make sure that blue had a little representation. We have an interesting creature called Thought Sponge. It costs 3 and a blue for a 1/1 sponge. It has flash. Thought Sponge enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest number of cards an opponent has drawn this turn. And then, when Thought Sponge dies, draw cards equal to its power. This is a really cool card to, 1, maybe surprise somebody with a really big blocker, or just surprise somebody with another body on the board. And then, whenever you decide to sacrifice that creature, whenever you decide to sack Thought Sponge, for any reason, you get all your death triggers plus drawing cards equal to its power. So it's not a lot, but it's a blue creature that's going to help you out if your commander identity includes blue.
Yeah. This one I really like. It's Dockside Chef. It's only 1 black for a 1/2 human citizen enchantment creature. You can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw a card. So I just like that it's repeatable, that it stays on the board, and whenever you need to sack something, you just pay 2, get you a card. You can do that over and over and over again as long as you have the mana to do it. You don't have to jump through as many hoops necessarily. I like it.
Cool. The next one, I wanted to make sure that red gets a little representation here. We have Brazen Cannonade. Again, a little more aggro version of Aristocrats, but this is still a way to get some card advantage happening. Brazen Cannonade is an enchantment for 3 and a red. Whenever an attacking creature you control dies, Brazen Cannonade deals 2 damage to each opponent. Just a pow! Everyone's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has the ability Raid. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you attacked with a creature this turn, exile the top card of your library. And until end of combat on your next turn, you may play that card. So this is Red's version of draw card. Anytime it's not draw card. It's called Impulsive Draw, and they get to exile a card, and then they have 1 turn to play it. So Brazen Cannonade says, hey, did you attack? Then you get a bonus card. And that first part, with it dealing its 2 damage, says, hey, it doesn't matter if the thing you attack with dies. That's fine, because it's going to deal 2 damage to everybody. If you are playing in white, here's another way that white can get you some additional cards. It's called Norn's Wellspring. It's an artifact for 1 and a white. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put an oil counter on Norn's Wellspring. You can pay 1, tap, and remove 2 oil counters to draw a card. Definitely a little slower than black by itself, but you do get to scry, so at least you know that the card you're going to get is a good one because you've scryed first. You get to scry, and then you can pay 1, tap, and draw.
Cool. It's a good list.
Again, in each of these colors and in each of these categories, there's lots of cards. We just had to choose some cards that we thought were emblematic of that effect. Yeah. And the same is going to be true in this next section, Interaction. Aristocrats' bread and butter for interaction is enters and leaves effects, because they're going to be constantly watching the creatures entering from the graveyard or from your hand and then leaving. So all of those triggers over and over again. Every time your creatures are entering and dying, use those triggers in order to keep your opponent's battlefields in check.
Yeah.
So Benjamin, start us off.
Yeah, I've got 3 creatures that are great at this. We've got Reclamation Sage in green. It says when it enters, destroy an artifact or enchantment. That's pretty nice. A Ravenous Chupacabra. When it enters, destroy target creature an opponent controls. And then a Cursed Marauder is a great example of a whole bunch of creatures that do this, but when it enters, each player sacrifices. And this one says non-token creature, so that's really good.
And it only costs 2.
Yeah.
This is the better Fleshbag Marauder. It happens.
Yes, I know.
It's better.
It is better. I guess there's those odd situations where opponents only have tokens, but normally no. This is great, because normally in a deck like this, you're sacrificing the creature you just played, and so you don't care that it says non-token, but your opponents, they have to sack whatever they got. So these are examples. There's all sorts of them. When they enters the battlefield, destroy something, or everybody sacks something, and then after it's done its thing, it's fodder for the machine.
Yep. Thinged it into the factory. The next one, here are a couple creatures that have activated abilities that require sacrificing themselves. So here's Cankerbloom. It costs 1 and a green for a 3/2. That's a big body for Cankerbloom. You can pay 1 and sacrifice Cankerbloom to destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or proliferate. I mentioned last episode Caustic Caterpillar, which is kind of doing the same thing, destroying stuff with its own sacrifice trigger. There are tons of white creatures that sacrifice themselves to also do this, destroy enchantments or destroy artifacts. So look for those. Next one, Derek.
Yeah, I think the bread and butter, the most sought after Aristocrats that's playing red card is going to be Goblin Bombardment. It's going to be in every single red Aristocrats deck. It is an enchantment that just says sacrifice a creature. It deals 1 damage to any target. Doesn't get simpler or easier than that. Just start machine gunning people, death by 1,000 cuts, get rid of problematic commanders or something that might be stopping you. You know, whatever the case may be, this card does it all, and it does it for free. Then, when you're sacrificing those creatures, why don't we get a little payoff? Let's talk about Mayhem Devil in
So good.
red-black. This is a devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. So you'll get your triggers from sacrificing the Goblin Bombardment, start dealing damage. If someone else is playing Aristocrats or something else, you'll get their death triggers for you to start machine gunning stuff. And it's just this is a great win con in red and black. And
Mayhem Devil is insane.
I bet every red black Aristocrats deck runs this deck.
I'm willing to bet there are red-black decks that aren't Aristocrats running it because everyone's got treasures and clues.
Yes,
Yeah,
especially now that treasures are as big as they are.
Everyone's got treasures and clues. Every land that sacrifices itself, so every fetch land. Mayhem Devil is watching every player to watch anybody sacrifice anything. It's really cool.
Yeah, let's talk board wipes now. We have Blasphemous Act. The old, I don't think I have to say it, but I will. It's a sorcery that costs red and 8, but we're never going to pay that because it costs 1 less colorless cheaper to for each creature that's already on the battlefield. 10 out of 10 times, it's going to be 1 red to cast the spell, and then it'll deal 13 damage to each creature. One of red's probably the most iconic board wipe that red has.
I'll give that to you.
I feel like everyone runs it in a red deck. It's a very easy spell, or a very easy card. And recently, black got a very similar card. It's called Blasphemous Edict. This one is
awesome.
Black, and 3. But like Blasphemous Act, this one lets you pay 1 black if there are 13 or more creatures on the battlefield. If that's the case, each player sacrifices 13 creatures to their choice. I feel like that's pretty cool because that's going to hit a lot of... there are creatures that might survive 13 damage, big Voltron creatures. They can't survive sacrificing.
Yeah. I mean, Blasphemous Edict is going to clear out any board that is not a dedicated token deck. Yeah.
Love it. And last, we have the Meat Hook Massacre. This is a legendary enchantment for black, and X. When it enters, each creature gets -X, -X until end of turn. So it's going to get rid of all those pesky, indestructible creatures that you might be dealing with. Then, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life. So this is just going to sit on the battlefield, hopefully for the rest of the game, and just generate, lots of value, give you a little bit of incremental life gain that might, be the difference between winning or losing. I think it might be an expensive card, but I think it's a good card. And it does quite a bit for a deck like this.
Meat Hook Massacre 1 costs $20-ish.
Proxy it.
Yeah, Meat Hook Massacre is so good because it is going to double up on that life drain trigger that we're going to get to in our big synergy section. Like that's the win con of most Aristocrats decks. And Meat Hook Massacre says, I'm going to do a board wipe and your win con all in the same card.
Yeah.
Because after you board wipe, I'm just going to stay. Like what? The design team was going wild when they made Meat Hook Massacre.
Sickos.
As Derek earlier was talking about these instants and sorceries where it's a very cheap card that says, as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature to do something. So in those cases with Village Rites, it was draw 2 cards. Well, we've got some removal options that do this same thing too. Very cheap cards that say, sack a creature, destroy something. So there's Bone Splinters, which is a sorcery. 1 black, as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. Wow, awesome. So 1 black, sack a creature, get all your death triggers, destroy target creature. Always remember that that's what sacrifice a creature actually says on all of these cards. The other one, Rite of Oblivion, black and white for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent to exile target non-land permanent. So you get to deny somebody else their death trigger if they have it. You get to hit something indestructible or whatever. And it has flashback for 4. So you can cast this spell again from your graveyard. I think that's great value.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, the next one I want to point out, this is not removal, but it is interaction, and that is Martyr's Cause. If you are playing an Aristocrats deck in white, Martyr's Cause really pulls its weight. I would say put it in any deck that can support it, but especially in Aristocrats. So it's a 2 mana and a white for an enchantment that says sacrifice a creature, prevent all damage to a creature or player from 1 source. And so if someone goes to Blasphemous Act, you can sack your creatures to save the creatures you want to keep. And remember, so it doesn't target. You can get, if someone's hexproof commander is getting in, all Voltroned up, sack one of your tokens and you're safe. They have to deal with Martyr's Cause before they can kill you. It nullifies trample. Like you're sitting there going, my little token's shaking in his boots because he can't. No, Martyr's Cause you sack it and prevent all the damage to you. So good, and it's repeatable free sack outlet, so it hits one of your pillars, and it's so hard to deal with. It's really good. The other one is removal that I want to talk about, and that's going to be Teysa Orzhov Scion. She is 1 white black. She has 2 abilities. The first is a sack outlet. Sacrifice 3 white creatures, exile target creature. So often you're going to be making a lot of tokens that are white. But her second ability says whenever a black creature you control dies, create a spirit token with flying. A white spirit token with flying.
Yeah.
So for every 3 black creatures you lose, usually through your own sacrifice shenanigans, you're getting 3 white creatures.
Through your own shenanigans.
Yeah. And your 3 white creatures can then be used to exile a creature.
And get more death triggers.
And get more death triggers.
Them.
That's right. So she if you have white and black creatures, she makes a nice little loop of sack plus exile plus get more tokens. She's very good if you're in white and black specifically for your aristocrats.
Yeah. Our next category is sacrifice fodder. Things to push into your sacrifice machine to start getting death triggers and generate value. I'm going to start us off in this section here, and the mission statement of the cards I'm about to talk about is let your creatures die more than once. Get multiple death triggers per creature. So the first one that I want to talk about is, again, a category of creatures that are like this. It's called Doomed Traveler. It costs 1 white for a 1/1 soldier. Whenever it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Like I said, there is a enormous set of creatures that do this, that come down for very cheap. And then when they die, you get a token. We'll let that token die. So now for Doomed Traveler, I'm going to get 2 death triggers from him and not just 1. When we were talking about decks with no ramp and increasing that early game synergy, getting your board set up and prepared to synergize, Doomed Traveler is a great turn 1 play. A great turn 1 or turn 3 play as you pair it with more things, so that when I get my sack outlet on turn 4 or turn 3 or whatever, I can get 2 sacrifices out of Doomed Traveler rather than just 1, because it's going to create a bonus body.
Really good with cards like Phyrexian Altar, where your 1 mana becomes 2 mana.
Yes.
It's really good.
I mean, Ashnod's Altar, where this 1 creature becomes 4 colorless.
Yeah.
That is wild. Here are some enchantments that look for your creatures to die, and then they create a replacement token. Here's Blightbound. I like Blightbound a lot. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment. And this one's all about pests. Attacking pests you control get +1/+0 and have menace. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a pest. Create a pest token. And as you know, pest tokens say whenever this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So once again, we're replacing a non-token creature that dies with a token instead. Abzan Ascendancy does the same thing, except it creates spirit tokens with flying whenever a non-token creature you control dies. Now, Abzan Ascendancy has a little bonus. Whenever it comes onto the battlefield, you stick a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Cool. Give everybody a little steroid boost before they start attacking in and dying, and then replacing them with spirit tokens. There's one more that I want to hit in this section called Requiem Angel. Requiem Angel costs 5 and a white. No easy feat. This is not a cheap ask. It's a 5/5 flying angel. Whenever another non-spirit creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Requiem Angel can turn a creature like Elenda into 3 death triggers instead of 2.
Yeah, she's this
my
card is so
vampire
good.
dies, creates a vampire token. When the token dies, it becomes a spirit token. So what I think is so incredible about Requiem Angel is that it can see all of the tokens dying too. And any token that's not a spirit can still come back as a spirit.
Yeah.
So good. There's a zombie in Theros where it's a zombie. Whenever it dies, you make a goat. So now with Requiem Angel, that goat dies and becomes a spirit.
Yeah. And
like
when the
chain
original
just keeps going.
And when the original zombie dies, you get the spirit and the goat.
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right. So Requiem Angel is, I think, an incredible way to just each creature becomes more and more and more death fodder as the chain just keeps going. I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I need to put it in Nethroi.
Yeah, you do. All right, Benjamin,
All right.
do the next one.
This next one represents a bunch of enchantments and artifacts that just every turn make a token. And I really want to highlight Awakening Zone on this one. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn token that you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. And so it could go in ramp, but I like it because it's creating tokens every turn that you can then use as sacrifice fodder, but it's creating tokens that can sacrifice themselves. So it can skip the sack outlet in a pinch to get you all your death triggers. And it's doing that every turn, giving you something else that can sack itself for free. So yeah, there's lots of token makers. I think Derek's going to tell you about a couple more, but I like Awakening Zone specifically because they're tokens that sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off what Benjamin said, we've got a couple cards. I like these cards because they are kind of like a set it and forget it type of card. They just kind of do their own thing without you having to manipulate it. I'm thinking about cards like Keeper of the Accord, who says at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Then it's also got another ability. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you, you may search a library for a basic plains, put it on the battlefield tapped. For the first part with the soldiers, in an Aristocrats deck, when you could sacrifice at any time, it's really easy to manipulate these triggers and make sure that you are getting under that threshold so that way you can get these guys back. It's just free
value,
free value
triggers.
And you're getting that on each turn of your opponents. So super nice to just, it's doing its own thing. And then another card I wanted to mention is Ophiomancer, who is a human shaman. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no stakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with death touch. Great little blockers. And then also, this card wants you to have no snakes so it can give you snakes. So just keep sacrificing your snakes to the trash for the value and keep getting them back. And it's just as long as you're remembering to use up these tokens, it'll keep
my
giving
whole
you more.
factory runs on snake oil.
Yeah.
just shove it in. Yeah.
All right. The last one I want to talk about is Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler is the linchpin to a lot of combos. It just says it's a 1 mana 2/1 for a zombie that can't block. And it says you may cast this card from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. There's lots of zombies amongst cards that we're talking about or that you might want to include in an Aristocrats deck. And so as long as you have a zombie, you can cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard. So there's all sorts of uses for that, obviously. It's basically as much black mana as you have, that's how much fodder you have every turn. Because cast it, sack it, recast it, sack it. And if you've got something like Phyrexian Altar as your sack outlet, then you can get as many triggers as you want. Gravecrawler, Phyrexian Altar, and another zombie is infinite triggers. So it's great.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
All right. So our next one is our recursion. Recursion is one of the pillars of Aristocrats, but we think it's an optional pillar. A plate can stand on 3, but it's a little more stable if it has 4. And so we do like adding a little bit of recursion into our Aristocrats package. Derek, start us off with this all performer.
Yeah, here's Victimize, a black and 2 sorcery. Choose 2 target creatures in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. Whoa, wowee, what a great card. This card is so good.
Victimize is awesome. Oh my gosh, they killed my Blood Artist and my Midnight Reaper. However, will I get them back and rebuild my entire engine again? Victimize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
All right.
Benjamin, your turn.
Yeah, I want to talk about these. There's some instant speed ones here. So whenever you need to go off on your shenanigans, you can always use these on anybody's turn at any time. Sack your whole board, bring them back. There's several. The biggest 2 are going to be Second Sunrise and Faith's Reward. They're basically the same. Second Sunrise does it for everybody. Face reward is just for you. But they say, so Second Sunrise is 1 white. It says each player returns to play all artifact, creature, enchantment, and land cards that were put into his or her graveyard from play this turn. Face reward costs 1 more mana. It's 3 and a white. And it says you return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So good. You sacrifice your Evolving Wilds to get a land. You sacrifice your whole board. You sacrifice everything. Just sacrifice everything. Face reward. So not only did you get all those triggers, you got your whole board back.
Counterspell.
Yeah. Okay. So this is your.
I'm just predicting the comments we're gonna get.
Of course. So this is your reminder to don't get greedy, right? But Second Sunrise and Face Reward can both be used to have game-ending turns where you can sacrifice your whole board and get back. And they can also just be used as ramp to sack a few fetch lands, go get your lands, bring your fetch lands back and do it again. And so I also want to mention Brought Back, which is just white. It says choose 2 permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there in the battlefield this turn and return them to the battlefield tapped. So it's like a little mini Face Reward. You just get to pick 2.
Yeah.
But again, that can be used very early. If you've got a couple fetch lands in play, you fetch for 2 white mana, brought back the 2 fetch lands, go get whatever you want after that.
Yeah.
It's great ramp. But late, it can get back a couple things from your graveyard. I also want to shout out Revelark here. Revelark is a bit on the high end. It costs 4 and a white, or you can evoke it for 5 and a white. And it says whenever it leaves the battlefield, you return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's kind of like a Victimize, but you're going to get fodder back. Mm-hmm. You can get it right away. If you are using it as part of your loop with something like Victimize, it can, again, take your board state from almost nothing to something pretty big. It's great with something like Brought Back or Face Reward to just shenanigans everywhere.
Yep. Derek, do the next one.
Yeah, I mean, as the resident green player, let's talk about Eternal Witness and what is it, Timeless Witness?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
These are green creatures that when they enter the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. They're like going straight to the battlefield is great because you avoid commander attacks and all that stuff, but being able to get a card, which sorcery, instant, artifacts, whatever, that you don't necessarily want on the battlefield, and being able to put it back in your hand, it's so nice. It can really mean the difference between winning or losing a game to get that one bit of removal spell or whatever on an instant and then be able to cast it again.
I feel like Derek clutches victory from defeat so many times with cards like Eternal Witness.
Yeah.
The only reason that Eternal Witness didn't win you the game last weekend when we were playing is because I had a Torpor Orb in my kind of semi-stacks deck. So I was cutting off ETBs at the moment.
Yes.
But without that single Torpor Orb, Derek would have been able to get rid of my solitary confinement and win the game.
Yes.
Wow.
Because of Eternal Witness, man. It's just so good to say there's a key piece, whether it be removal, whether it be an engine piece to get your Aristocrats engine back up and running, whatever. But there's a key piece that's been removed. Let me get it back. Yeah. And the cool thing with these ETBs is loop them with your recursion and sacrifice things, and your graveyard just becomes a second hand.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, with Eternal Witness and Revelark, you could and a sack outlet, just get back everything in your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah. I want to do this next one, Vat of Rebirth. This is a 50-cent card. I don't know how good it is for everyone else, but this is an overperformer for me. I really like it. It costs 1 black for an artifact. Whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Vat of Rebirth, and then you can pay 3, tap it, remove 4 oil counters from it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. What makes this card an overperformer is it says whenever an artifact or creature you control, not an artifact or creature card. So Vat of Rebirth triggers for every token that dies. It gets an oil counter. For every treasure I crack, it's an oil counter. It's so easy to get the required 4 counters. Like, that is just not a slow process at all. I almost always have it immediately. And so if I wanted to, on the turn I played it, I could essentially pay 4 and tap it to get a creature from my graveyard to the battlefield. which isn't great, but it is the standard rate.
Yeah.
It is the standard rate for like uncommons to get cards from the graveyard back to the battlefield. But then I can redo it. I can redo it the next turn again for 3. I can redo it the next turn again for 3. So I like Vat of Rebirth a lot. For a 50-cent uncommon, it overperforms for me.
Yeah, cool. In a similar vein, I really like Phyrexian Reclamation.
Yeah.
It's just a 1 mana enchantment. It says pay 2 mana and 2 life, and you don't have to tap it, so you can do it more than once. To return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And this kind of goes along with what Derek was saying. Sometimes you want stuff in your hand instead of direct to the battlefield. Yeah. But it just lets you recycle your fodder as many times as you need to. And it's great card selection. Obviously, a lot of creatures are dying. It can be done at instant speed, which is great. So if you were planning to do some looping shenanigans or something like that, and then they go to exile your graveyard, you can at least save the key pieces out of there with the whatever mana you have left, and wait till you have some sort of removal for the graveyard, whatever they're doing to stop your graveyard, and then reset to start again. Phyrexian Reclamation works as a way to protect graveyard pieces while also just generally being good card selection. The last one I want to talk about is Dusk to Dawn. This is one of those split cards. Dusk is just a board wipe. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. A lot of your cards are tokens or smaller, like we've been describing a bunch of smallish creatures today. But really, this is here for Dawn. Dawn is an aftermath card, so you can only cast it from your graveyard. And it says return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So just take your whole graveyard, all those fodder creatures, your Ravenous Chupacabra, your acidic slimes, and all of that, put them all back in your hand and replay them to sack
all
again
of your Blood Artists, your Cartel Aristocrat.
Yeah, your Eternal Witness. Just basically, I mean, your Viscera Seer. This could, if they have managed to somehow destroy your engine, Dawn returns it all back to your hand to do again, right? Now, there are lots of cards similar to Dawn that say return X creatures with power 2 or less to the battlefield, or return all creatures with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield, or things like that. So Dawn is just a representation of ways of the sort of mass reanimation that doesn't necessarily require them to have died this turn like Faith's Reward does. It's just get back a bunch of creatures that you're already playing. You're playing cheap creatures. You're playing low power creatures. We'll get them back. One sorcery to do it. Yeah.
It's very nice. So we are to the last section. This is your win cons typically for an Aristocrats deck. We call this section Synergy Staples, and we are just looking for ways to end the game, but this also includes the free sack outlets that we really, really like that didn't necessarily fit any other category. So first, we're going to do the win conditions. These are the cards that allow you to drain your opponent's life totals down to 0. Cruel Celebrant, Elas Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim, which is a legendary creature, which means you could put this in the command zone if you want. You can have this effect right there. Elas Ilkor is white and black for a 2/2. It's a legendary creature. It has Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, it's just looking for that cycle of graveyard to battlefield, back to graveyard. Your life totals are going up, your opponent's life totals are going down. In the command zone, that's a great pillar effect to have in the command zone ready to go, and it's so cheap. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat. Both of these are just looking for creatures to die, and then drain your opponents. Opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. All-Star from Lord of the Rings, 2023 Mirkwood Bats. Costs 4 for a 2/3 with flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Now, obviously, we have it here for Aristocrats, but this is an insane card for treasures, clues, any token strategy, because it's looking for both creation and the sacrifice, and it's going to ping your opponents on both sides. And then there's Sir Conrad the Grim, another legendary creature. This guy is a 5/4 human knight for 3 black. Whenever another creature dies, whenever a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves the graveyard, his ability is confusingly written, but whenever a creature dies, is milled, discarded, or leaves.
Yeah. If it's put in from anywhere or leaves to anywhere.
Yeah. There it is. There it is. If that happens, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So he just kind of has a flail and is hitting everybody anytime he sees creatures wiggling around the graveyard.
Yeah. In or out.
In or out. Very good. And guys, there's more than the 6 I mentioned. You could keep going. You could fill a deck with 30 of these if you want. Should you? I don't think so.
Please don't.
I think 10 is probably good because you only need to hit 1, right?
Yeah.
You only need to hit 1 or 2, and then the loop you have is going to finish your opponents off. Okay, next category, Benjamin.
All right, so these are your key sack outlets, the ones that are repeatable, that are free, that are on cheap bodies. And so this is going to be your Cartel Aristocrat, your Umbral Caller Zealot.
This is brand new from Edge of Eternities.
Yeah, it looks great. In fact, it looks really good. I was happy to see it on this list. Your All-Star Viscera Seer. If you'll notice in our last episode, Derek was like, "Hey, this fits all of your good stuff for a sack outlet."
Yeah.
Absolutely, on a 1-drop. And what I really like about the Aristocrats, the namesake of this deck, your Cartel Aristocrat. When you sacrifice another creature, it gains protection from the color of your choice till end of turn. So it's really hard to remove your free sack outlet. And then Falkenrath Aristocrat says, first of all, it's a nice beater on its own. It's a 4/1 flying haste, hard to block, gets in as soon as you play it. But when you sacrifice a creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. And if you happen to be sacrificing humans, it also is getting +1/+1 counters. But that doesn't really matter. It's really nice. It's a good blocker because it has flying and it can be indestructible, and its power is worth looking at with 4 power. So I like the Aristocrats because they protect themselves. Most of your other sack outlets don't do that. So, like, Cartel Aristocrat can survive a Blasphemous Act, any targeted removal. It's a great blocker. Both of them are great blockers. So you can keep shields up while you're doing your thing. But Viscera Seer helps you churn through the deck. So early on, you may not have the pieces you need, but you might have a couple of fodder pieces plus Viscera Seer. Dig. It helps you dig to the other stuff you need. Umbral Caller Zealot costs 1 more. It says if you can sacrifice a creature or artifact to surveil 1. Surveil is so good.
You can start getting stuff into your graveyard.
Into your graveyard for something like a Dawn.
And you have the flexibility of doing a creature or artifact. It's a 3/2.
Yeah, a 3/2 for 2 mana. 1/1. Yes, these are really good. You're getting a lot for that extra mana. I love Surveil. It's so useful. So these are, like we said, free, cheap, repeatable sack outlets that come with a nice bonus, either digging through your deck or protecting themselves from removal. Well worth it. These should be in any deck that can support them in Aristocrats.
All right, Derek. Last card of the episode. Take us home.
Yeah, we added this freaky little guy named Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. I don't know what it is. I don't super like what it looks like. It's a Phyrexian horror who I think basically just does what Taste of Karloff does. If a creature dying causes the triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It's a legendary creature. It's mono black, and 3. So it kind of just cuts your time in half of what you need to do to win a game.
8/3.
Yeah.
And
it's got a second ability where you can play a Phyrexian black. So you can play a black mana or pay 2 life. Probably best to just pay 4 life. And then exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. You can put a indestructible counter on Drivnov. So it protects itself, which is pretty cool. Freaky little guy.
Yeah, I mean, just like Teysa, this is another legendary creature that just gives you twice the bonus for each thing you're doing, which twice the bonus means half the time. It means half the time, half the required number of sacrifices. That is nothing to turn your nose up at. Because I think listener, you'll find that after playing Aristocrats a couple of times, it doesn't take that long to get in your winning position, to get in your controlling position. And with a card like Teysa or Drivnod, it takes half that time. Wow.
Yeah.
You'll find I think that they are worth adding to your deck, even though they don't support a pillar themselves.
Yeah. And you do need to be careful the number of cards that are not pillars that you put in your deck, because Aristocrats needs a card from every pillar to be able to go off. But a couple, like sticking a Teysa and a Drivnod into your deck, I think is not only fine, but yeah, speeds up the clock considerably.
At least Drivnov, since it can make itself indestructible, make sure it stays around for more than a turn, hopefully.
Yeah,
That's a good
absolutely.
point.
Because
Yep.
it is going to be a removal magnet for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So
listeners, those were the cards that we think are emblematic of the Aristocrats archetype. If you can find cards that can provide redundancy to these effects, cards that have the same or nearly the same effects throughout the history of Magic, this is a very well-supported archetype, and we want to hear about the decks you've made, the Aristocrats decks you've made, either using some of these cards or cards like them. What copycat cards did you find that maybe you like better than the cards we included in here? And if you've made it to the end of the episode, tell us your favorite sacrifice outlet. What's the one that you stick in every deck that needs to kill a creature on command? What's your favorite sacrifice outlet? I think mine is Ashnod's Altar.
Mine is Grimgrin Corpseborn.
Ooh, good choice. I've wanted to make a Grimgrin deck for so long.
Mine is the good, old, reliable Goblin Bombardment.
Nice.
Excellent choice. So, listeners, tell us your favorite sack outlet to our call for subscribers on Spotify. Put us in your pocket so that you can listen to us in the car, on the bus, on the train, on the plane. Subscribe to us on your Spotify or anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that you can message us directly at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. Listeners, thank you so much. And Benjamin, Derek, thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
There, guys.
Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I am joined today by a very special guest, Keenan from Commander I Hardly Know Her on Instagram, famous for #BrewSeshFriday. Welcome to the show, Keenan.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it is such a pleasure to have you here. This episode is for the Eldorado Gaming Deck Series, where we feature Magic the Gathering decks played by members of the My Mythical Meta crew, and today is a very special exception where we have got a guest from the larger Magic the Gathering community on Instagram. Today's episode, our community shout out goes to Noor Shamoon. Hey, Noor, thank you so much for taking the leap to support our show directly. Our community members on Patreon and on YouTube get access to our community Discord server, early episodes, and our members get a 20% off discount code to our sponsor, EldoradoGaming.com. This is your destination for premier role-playing game accessories like metal dice and playmats. So listeners, if those sound like perks that are barking up your tree, you can go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta, or you can click join anywhere on YouTube that our videos are playing. We have a new way to support the show. If you are a content creator and looking to branch out on YouTube, and you're looking for tools or services or coaching or lessons to help you grow, try out vidIQ, the ultimate YouTube growth toolkit. We have an affiliate link, vidIQ.com/mymythicalmeta. If you decide that this is the right tool for you, it will give us a kickback. And I can just say this tool has been extremely helpful, and it streamlines a lot of stuff directly into the YouTube website for me. So vidIQ.com/mymythicalmeta. All right. Welcome again to our guest, Keenan from Commander I Hardly Know Her on Instagram. Keenan, I gotta know, what was your inspiration for #BrewSeshFriday?
Yeah, so for Brew Sesh Friday, I mean, honestly, I feel like a huge part of social media is just kind of that engagement side of things. And
Yeah,
I kind of wanted to combine that with just the dusty box of brewed decks that have been sitting on my phone for who knows how long. So I was like, hey, what a great opportunity to kind of try to do both.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get back to it. I've been taking a little break from posting, but hopefully getting back to some decks that I had in the works. Got some monkeys and I think some sea creatures coming up.
Ooh, okay. I like sea creatures. Our listeners know that at one point I had 40 decks built, and then every 2 or 3 years I do a culling, where I will like Thanos snap and 20 decks get disappeared. But then that means all of those great cards get put back into the binders so that I can start reusing and brewing some more. It is so fun for me every week to see what you've come up with. One thing that caught my attention to your profile was your interaction with Ovika Enigma Goliath. Many, many, many moons ago, when I think we were both just taking our first little forays into Instagram. And you've kind of had my attention ever since. And this week, with two of my hosts saying, hey, I'm out, we're all sick, it's not happening, I said, maybe now's the time that I can just reach out, try something new, and try to get involved with the online match community. I saw that you had some streaming opportunities to do some live play. How did that go?
Honestly, I either get absolutely wrecked or I am the one doing the wrecking. Like
Hey, that feels good. I'm willing to take that 50%.
All right. Even like honestly, like I consider it a win as long as like your deck, does the thing. Like, hey, if I do the thing, I don't need to win.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. And I'm so excited to look at this deck. Listeners, I asked Keenan, hey, you've got one chance to tell the world about your favorite precious baby, the deck that you need the world to see. And he wants the world to see Shirray Shizo's Caretaker. Dude, what a beautiful choice. I was telling you before the show, we do have a Shirray deck in our meta as well, tucked inside an Abzan shell. But this is just pure mono black, graveyard recursion. Your life is a resource, just greatness at any cost. This is mono black as it's meant to be. Can you tell us why this is your precious baby? What makes this your favorite deck?
Honestly, everybody has that one, the mean deck that you have.
Yeah.
And like after so long, I had been running, gosh, it was if you remember the Madness precon.
Yes.
Yes.
With Anji Falconwrath.
Yeah. No, she's
Yeah.
so fun. Such a fun deck.
Still so good.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not so good when your local pod is Dragon, Edgar, Windgrace, and you're just kind of watching everybody play the game.
I get you completely. Yeah.
So I was like, how can I try to build a mean deck that can kind of compete with those higher level names without like being an obvious threat? I was like,
Yeah.
what better way than doing that with a bunch of little 1/1 guys? Just a bunch of little
They're
guys.
just 1/1s, right?
Hey, so you get it. You get it.
I do get it. That's perfect. I mean, the way you just described, you have to keep up with your meta, but in a way that doesn't completely steal the show. There's definitely a dance to be done there. You got to turn the heat up on the boiler, but not so high that they notice. You got to kind of boil the frog without it realizing that realizing it's been got.
Right, and avoid the local meta arms race.
Exactly. Avoiding the local meta arms race. I mean, I think you just said instinctually what we've been saying on our show for a long time, that the interaction of the meta is what's so important in your deck building. And you're going to have more fun if your play group is having fun all at once. Like, the game does not exist purely as the game, right? If you want the game alone, play Arena. But if you're talking about enjoying the game with your friends, then building with your friends in mind is part of that. So again, thank you so much. And I'm really excited to look at your Shirray Shizo's Caretaker EDH deck. So for anyone new to our deck techs here on the pod, we are not going to mention every single card. Keenan's deck list will, of course, be in our show notes. What we are going to do is highlight the most synergistic cards in each of our deck building categories. For most deck builders, that means ramp, card draw, removal, protection, recursion if it's there. Spoiler alert, this is a mono black Shirray deck, so we've definitely got some recursion here. And then synergy and finishers. And we're not actually going to talk about the big game changer cards. Everybody knows about Bolas's Citadel. Everybody knows about Necropotence. That comes up in everybody's deck list. What I loved in this deck is finding all of the 1-power creatures that I'd never seen before and seeing what kind of awesome synergy they have here. So let's get to it. Let's start with Shirray Shizo's Caretaker. Keenan, give us this commander's abilities. What's the game plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, you want to choose if you want your full portrait or the plain Jane right there.
Yeah.
depending on how many times she's been removed, I usually just switch between them, you know? Just depends.
Very nice. I like that. Yeah.
But honestly, every time I think the general strategy is the same. We're just trying to slowly build our board of 1/1s that, hey, they've got some cool abilities tagged to them when they come in.
Right.
We're not doing anything. We're just
When they
maybe
come in
making it.
or when they leave.
Exactly.
Exactly. You want to try to get that value from both sides. Yeah.
When they're coming in, when they're leaving, we're, drawing cards. We're making a treasure here or there. We're maybe doing some damage. We have added some good little 1/1s here just to kind of keep them, well, not safe, but to bring them back. So we're kind of
Yeah,
maximizing
absolutely.
that, sacrificing and just bringing them back. And then the fun part about Shirray, of course, is this happens at the beginning of the next end step, so that can be everybody's end step. So
Every
it's
person's turn.
our turn.
Yes, absolutely. So here we go. I'll go ahead and read out Shirray for our listeners. Shirray is 4 and a black for a 2/2 spirit. Whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step if Shirray Shizo's caretaker is still on the battlefield. So exactly what Keenan just said. This doesn't just check your own end step, it's each end step. We've got a Shirray in our meta. I'm sure you've had this experience, but this is an every turn. And people don't realize how bad it is until you start saying, oh, wait, before your turn ends, let me take my turn.
Because
And
literally,
you do your sacrificing, you do all your whatever, you get your aristocrat triggers, and then everything comes back. And then you say, okay, now the turn's over.
literally every time I play this deck, I think there's at least one person at the table that realizes, oh, it's not your end step. It's every end step. I said,
Yep.
You got it.
Absolutely. I mean, Shirray is so awesome. What's your intended bracket, first of all?
So for this one, I was shooting for a 3.
Okay.
There are, I think there's one tutor in this deck, I'm pretty sure, but it is on theme. It's tutor
It
on a
is
stick
on
with a
theme.
creature.
Yes.
So, and of course we've got, the game changers we mentioned, Bowls of Citadel, Necropotence. But I mean, I think we fit a pretty comfortable 3 with this one. And to kind of go back on ramp with that, I mean, my thing, like, hey, this deck, I believe it's got 36 lands, which, hey, I have a land drop PTSD or lack of land drop
Yep.
PTSD.
Dude, I'm the
of it.
same way. I'm like, I almost always put too many lands in my deck. I would rather have too many than too few. That's my point of view.
Oh, 100%. But with the ramp, at least, I see, like, with the lands, I'm hitting my curve as I should be. But then with some of these cards that we've got in here, we can be, even accelerating our turns, hopefully going a little faster than people would be expecting us to in mono black, at least.
Sure. And Shirray costs 5. I think it's a good move to have ramp in your deck because you do not want to wait for turn 5 to roll around to play your commander and pass. Yikes. Like, that's a bad turn to take. So let's take a look at some of these ramp pieces. So our first one, I love this card because I've included it in a couple of my decks before when I experiment with aristocrats. Soldevi Adnate. This is 1 and a black for a 1/2 creature. It's got to have 1 power. Everything in this deck got to have 1 power so that you have a chance to save it. Soldevi Adnate. You can tap it, sacrifice a black or artifact creature to add an amount of black equal to that creature's casting cost to your mana pool. Now, of course, that's old text. I think it must say mana value now. But man, what a great sack outlet to have. We've got some other great fodder for this, or cards that can just help you add mana yourself. Go ahead and take it away, Keenan. What's the next one you got?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The next one up here is going to be Basal Thrall. And if you don't play mono black, you probably have not seen this card much.
Yeah.
But it's a 1/2. It's a Thrall, if you believe it or not. Tap sack Basal Thrall to add 2 black to your mana pool. Play this ability as an interrupt, which, hey, you can do it at instant speed. That's pretty cool. Basal Thrall, kind of like Soldevi, you do have to tap it, so Summoning Sickness is going to keep you from using it right away. But this is a great way to get 2 black mana. Turn 3, get Shirray out, get cooking. And then honestly, next up, I would honestly slot this into the pet category as well for the next one, Greedy Freebooter.
Yeah.
Because he's just, I mean,
I wasn't sure it was on your pet category, but I saw it in the deck and I was like, I have to talk about that one.
I guess it's anecdotal more than anything, but this card has gotten me so much value every time I've seen it played in this deck.
Yes.
Because it's a 1/1, 1-drop, human pirate, which when it dies, fry one and then create a treasure token. So hey, if I've already got sack outlets, my Phyrexian, my Ashnods,
Yep.
let's keep the party going.
And you're just going to recycle it and get an extra mana every time.
Mm.
Grind him up in Ashnod's altar and get a bonus treasure plus a scry. Like, this is really great value, and then get him back the next turn. I want to talk about Basil Thrall for a second. You have
Yeah.
Basil Thrall, which taps to add 2 black. You also had another thing that does the same, Blood Pet. Blood Pet
My
is
gosh, yes.
the same effect for 1 black and does not require a tap. So you only need Basil Thrall and a Blood Pet. You only have to pay their cost once to get them onto the board. And now you're getting, with Blood Pet, you're getting an extra black every single turn. An extra black beyond the land drops. With Basil Thrall, you're getting an extra 2 black every turn for the rest of the game until they can solve the Shirray problem. So I really just think that those are excellent includes because they come back on the end step. That means they're there for the upkeep and you can use them again.
Mm-hmm.
It's really smart deck building. This deck has all of the normal ramp pieces. It's got the altars that make mana, Phyrexian altar, Ashnod's altar. Any other pet ramp pieces that you wanted to talk about in this deck?
I mean, Pitiless Plunder's in here, but I mean, that's not like, it's a good card in this
So
deck,
good.
but
Yeah.
it's not, a super exciting one.
Sure, yeah. And I gotta say, I love these extra 1 power creatures that can sack for some mana because that's bonus mana every single turn. I think that's so smart. So now we are into our card draw category. Digging down into your deck, as we all know, is going to help you see your most winningest cards. So pick a good one, Keenan. What you got?
Honestly, Ayara, she is a fun one in this deck. Just because, of course, I mean, this is a deck full of mono black 1/1s that we're bringing back every end step. We're going to be making everybody lose life as much as we can. And sack another black creature, draw a card. I would love to take some extra card draw whenever I can take it.
Yeah, Ayara having this extra drain effect, that's just really nice.
Yeah.
Because it's an added win con.
No, absolutely.
Very good.
And then kind of tied with Ayara, I do have in this deck as well Plague of Vermin. It's a 6 and a black. It's a sorcery. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of life. Repeat this process until no one pays life. Each player puts a 1/1 black rat creature token into play for each 1 life he or she paid this way. So, I mean, I like to have like ways to end the game, but like you got to work for it, right? Like you got to have more life than the whole table, and then we can get going with some rats.
Yeah, I like Plague of Vermin a lot. Like Ayara makes this a win con, and this deck always wants sacrifice outlets. Several of your draw effects are added onto a sack outlet. Obviously, because Shirray can help you get that fodder back again. Here's a card that I've always wanted to include, but for some reason haven't found the right deck for it. Plumb the Forbidden. And I think this is an excellent deck for it. 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. And when you do, copy the spell for each creature sacrificed. And the effect is simple. You draw a card, lose 1 life. 2 mana, draw 1 card, lose 1 life. I'm not sure I'm doing that, right? Because Night's Whisper, Sign in Blood is going to give me 2 cards. But with Shirray constantly getting me all those creatures back, it's barely an inconvenience.
No, literally.
Right? You want all those creatures to die. You can sack your entire board to Plumb the Forbidden and get an entirely new hand.
No, this is a great way to dig for answers, too. Like, you got a board of 8 1/1s. Let's turn that into 9 card draws because of the copy. Like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. Do this last one.
Priest of Forgotten Gods. Once again, I would almost say this is gonna, I feel like this has got to slide into that pet group as well because I love this card. It gives you card draw, gives you ramp.
Cards,
everybody
mana,
loses
drain.
life. Like, it does it all.
Yes, it does it all.
1, 2.
I'm starting to think maybe my problem is me. Like I don't have the black blood running through my veins like my brother does.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, sure, I know these cards. I know Priest of Forgotten Gods, but I have yet to put it in a deck that it's worked for me in. But
honestly,
you're telling me here this is a overperformer. It works every time.
Every time. This is one of the
Awesome.
cards. If I see this in my opening hand, I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
No questions.
Yeah, and it's got 1 power.
And hey,
They try to get rid of it. It's one of the best sack outlets in the game, and then it comes back with Shirray. Just so awesome. The skeleton of your card draw is instants that say sack a creature, draw cards, which we also love here on My Mythical Meta, and your 2 game changers, Bolas' Citadel and Necropotence. Do you have any like stories or how you acquired those cards?
So Necropotence, I had actually gotten from a friend forever ago, and he was actually a huge homie about it.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure I traded him.
That is just the best. We love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, no, I think
friends help you create your deck. That's awesome.
But yeah, no, he's so good. I think he traded me a Fabled Passage for it. So like once again, he wanted it, and hey, it was a great trade. I'm so happy for it. And then Bolas' Citadel, it was one of those things, I'll be honest, I didn't even know I had the card till one day I was just kind of digging through bulk, and I was like, wait a second, why?
Isn't it the best feeling?
Oh my gosh, I was like, you're telling me I don't have to.
It's like finding $10 in
this?
your jeans.
No, literally. Literally.
Like, yes. I asked about Bolas' Citadel because our meta, me, Benjamin, Derek, Randy, we went on a trip, like a big weekend to Magic Fest Dallas, the weekend that War of the Spark released. So we were buying booster boxes and just ripping nonstop packs of War of the Spark for that weekend. And I noticed on your Instagram that you had like a D&D Magic kind of weekend getaway recently too. So
oh yeah,
that sounds fun. That sounds awesome. All right. Our next category is removal. Man, when I was scrolling through this removal category, I just thought this is brutal. This is going to keep your opponents down. And again, to Shirray, hardly a cost, barely an inconvenience in order to keep your opponent's boards almost completely wiped clean. Take your pick. Which one do you want to show off first?
I'm trying to think which one's the meanest because all of these cards are really mean. I think Bone Shredder is the one where, like, when I play this deck, if people see that card come out, I can hear the groans just immediately. Like, nobody's happy when they see that card come out.
Bone Shredder, 2 and a black for a 1/1 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. And it has Echo, which is a bad ability. This is really bad. Echo means you have to pay the casting cost again if you want it to stay. Does Shirray ever want you to pay that Echo?
I think it says something about if you don't pay it, you sacrifice it. So I don't think so.
Exactly. And if you don't pay the Echo, then it gets sacrificed. Well, with Shirray, drat. You know, I guess I can't afford the Echo. And then Bone Shredder leaves. Shirray brings him right back to destroy another creature every single end step. Of course, as long as you can have a sack outlet for it.
1000%.
Yeah, a single sack outlet for Bone Shredder, and you are taking down a creature every single turn, not once per turn cycle. Beautiful.
Big Game Hunter is also kind of a fun creature removal. 1 colorless to black. It's a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. It can't be regenerated. Which, like, it also feels kind of mean because I feel like 9 times out of 10, the commander over next to you or the one across from the table is 4 or bigger.
It's like, hey, why aren't you playing 1/1s like I am? Shiray's like, hey, I'm the only one playing fair Magic over here. All y'all are too strong. And Big Game Hunter's there to keep the table in check. I think it's an excellent choice. And when you've got your recycle abilities and your recursion abilities to get them back on the board over and over again, these are really excellent control pieces. I think my favorite on this list is Eliminate the Competition, for the same reason that Plumb the Forbidden was good in card draw. Eliminate the Competition is 4 and a black. Man, that's a little high, but I think for its effect, it's totally worth it. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice X creatures, destroy X target creatures. Absolutely brutal to sack your entire board except for Shirray and then destroy your opponent's entire boards as well. I mean, you can take one of your opponents back to the Stone Age with this.
And
I think
like,
it's an absolutely really, really great pick.
and like the art on this card, like, I don't know, it just looks good.
Yeah, dude, it's savage. That knife going through that guy's wrist, brutal. And it almost doesn't need to be said as one of those overperformers, but we got to talk about Dictate of Erebos. It's so brutal when you're sacking. I mean, let's be modest and say 4 to 6 creatures a turn,
Oh yeah.
right? I mean, that's an extremely modest estimate. It's probably more.
Right.
Yeah. So if we're being extremely modest and saying you're sacrificing on purpose 4 to 6 creatures every turn right before the end step, Dictate of Erebos says whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. That means in one turn cycle around the board, for, again, super modest, you sacking 4 for 4 turn cycles, your opponents are 16 creatures down if they don't have an answer for this. And it has flash. It is going to get them once. So good.
And
Absolutely insane.
And the other kind of nice thing about Dictate of Erebos, it is each opponent sacks a creature, so we are getting around indestructible with this.
Yep. They're indestructible. They're hexproofs. Yeah, it's going to get them. Another really famous bit of removal that runs around in our meta is the Fleshbag Marauders and the Merciless Executioners. The guys that enter, everybody sacks. Because what can they do? It's like, man, I guess if you're not playing Sigarda Host of Herons, then you're boned. Like, that's it. That's all you got.
Hey, looks like they need to be playing Shirray. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. All right. Let's get to what we mentioned before we started recording. You had said when you sent me the deck list, I really like this deck. It's very strong, but once Shirray gets got, Shirray costs 5. Paying that 7 for the second time to come out is a tough ask. Like, it's kind of like a glass cannon. What is your plan B when the most important gear of the machine, because this is definitely an engine deck, you got to have all your Aristocrats pieces, and Shirray is just that keystone, that integral cog that must twist in the middle for everything else to work. What do you do when Shirray gets got? What are your answers to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, there are some cards, definitely not like secondary commanders by any means. So like Ayara is in here, Sir Conrad's in here. So you do have like those alternatives that can kind of pilot the deck while you get back on your feet to hopefully recast Shirray as soon as possible. But we also did add some more recursion pieces because that's where I feel like the deck was definitely lacking a little bit there. And specifically, Apprentice Necromancer is a great little zombie wizard for this deck.
An excellent pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Apprentice Necromancer. He's 1 and a black, black, tap and sack him. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. So we get to sacrifice him. We get to get something back. We sacrifice it. We get it back. It's a whole thing.
All the triggers everywhere on the entire board are going off. Absolutely. Yeah. Plus, again, if Shirray lives, that's all that matters. If Shirray lives at the end of that turn, then you can just recycle Apprentice Necromancer, recycle whatever Apprentice Necromancer brought back. Like, all of that stuff can just barf right back onto the battlefield for you. And I had mentioned any of your recursion that can work for anything else can also work for Shirray. You let Shirray die. Let Shirray go straight to the graveyard. And then you can get Shirray back with cards like Cadaver Imp. 1 black for a 1/1 flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Boom, Shiray's back in the game. Back in play for the cost you had. Another My Mythical Meta favorite, Victimize. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice 1 creature. Return 2 creatures to the battlefield tapped. For 3 mana. Shirray costs 5. I mean, so Shirray plus anything, you're getting almost double your mana's worth in getting creatures back from the graveyard. So awesome. Do you have any like victimized stories or memories or where the recursion just really got them?
I think the best memory I have with victimizing this deck was sacrificing, I think it was the 1/1 human off of Bastion Remembrance.
Yep.
And then in turn, I got Shirray back and then also dug through my graveyard for a Drivnod to just come right back.
Absolute destruction. Very cool. You've got one more recursion piece. Tell us about this last one.
Yes. Last one we've got. Well, there are two little guys. One is gonna be Dutiful Attendant. He is a human warrior. He's a 2 and a black. He's a 1/2. Whenever he dies, return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So kind of like Cadaver Imp, but the opposite, and he doesn't fly, unfortunately. And then my last guy is gonna be Valgavoth's Faithful. He's a 1 black, 1/1 human cleric. For 3 and a black, sacrifice Valgavoth's Faithful, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only a sorcery. Downside of that is the 4 mana and then activate a sorcery, but still pretty good for 1-drop 1.
I really agree. There's no tap in this cost. So you can do this all on the same turn if you need to, right? It costs 5 to just pay 5, reanimate 1 thing. That actually is on par for what normal black does, right? If you're looking at the commons and uncommons, which this is.
Right.
So like that is kind of an acceptable cost in my opinion. And to have it be on a 1/1 body that you can reuse over and over again, you can use this for anyone who's not Shirray too, if Shirray is on the board and working. So I think it's an excellent pick. Let's talk about your specific commander protection, saying Shiray's on the board. Y'all need to look somewhere else. Don't even look over here. What have you got to protect Shirray?
We will start with, it's always the least exciting, but I mean, it's always a staple. Gotta have my boots.
Yes.
Gotta have some lightning greaves. Keep them safe and sound.
Agreed.
And then also, I guess maybe not super exciting, but really good. It's also one of those cards that if it's in my opening hand, I get pretty excited. Would be Commander's Plate, because yeah, like +3/+3, I mean, that's cool, I guess, but protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity, that's even cooler.
Some cool tech with Commander's Plate. I put it in my colorless deck with Juladoc.
Okay.
So Juladoc is an Eldrazi. He's only colorless, which means there are no colors in his color identity. So he has protection from all colors.
Okay.
Sick, right?
I'm sitting here thinking now. Okay.
All the gears are turning. Hashtag Brew Sesh Friday.
Dude, next one coming up.
All right.
And then the last one I've got here, Not Dead for All. Kind of a
Not
random.
dead after all, yeah.
Yeah, kind of a random Eldraine card, but I mean, hey, 1 black, it's an instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, then create a Wicked Roll token attached to it. The Wicked Roll token's cool, but I'm just happy to see it come back a lot.
Yeah, I like this pick. It makes it into a lot of decks for me. I think this one specifically making a Wicked Roll works in your deck. This deck's win con is like that death by 1,000 cuts thing from all your aristocrat drain effects. And so you have one more with Not Dead after all. I like it. Okay, we are approaching the end. So now you mentioned earlier in the deck, well, this deck's got 1 tutor in it. Can you tell us, like, what's the awesome tutor that's in this deck that's not a game changer? It's really cool.
Gosh, this guy's so goofy too. Servant of the Stinger. He is from Thunder Junction.
Yeah.
When I first pulled this card out of a pack, I got really excited because, like, in my head, I'm like, a tutor on a creature is insanely good. Like, I was like, this card's got to be like $5 at least. And then I pulled it up. It was like 25 cents. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's a quarter. Yeah. So good, dude.
But I mean, like, come on. He's a 2-drop. He's a 1/3. He's kind of a big body. He's got Death Touch. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, if you've committed a crime this turn, you may sacrifice Servant of the Stinger. If you do, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. We are going to be committing crimes.
Yeah. What are the crimes that you commit in this deck? How often do you target people's stuff?
Yeah,
because you have to target opponents, target anything they control, target cards in their graveyard. Where are your targeting cards?
So we've got like I believe some of this, like the pingers, like Blood Artist would be one there.
You're right.
Sling Gang Lieutenant in the deck. Sack a Goblin, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So
Okay, yeah.
there are pieces that hopefully will be committing, maybe not crime sprees necessarily, but
Sure.
if we've got our engine
Hey,
going, we'll
one
hopefully
crime
be
is enough.
one's enough.
One
Hey,
crime is enough. You only got to do one.
would you download a car? Download a
I
card?
mean, yes, I literally
I
would.
do. I
All the time. All the time. It having one power. This is a reusable tutor in this deck.
Mhm.
Crazy. I mean, I just don't know a lot of people who are, well, they might throw a body in front of your 1/3 death touch because it does have to land. It has to deal combat damage.
Mhm.
But to know that you're just going to get it back again, to just have a persistent death toucher that it's going to come every time. And then it's going to be up to block when you come at me.
100%.
And then it's going to come back again. Like, that's just, I find that really useful in this deck. And here's a card that's likely to be tutored, Drivnod Carnage Dominus. 3 black for an 8/3. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Perfect for that Aristocrat Drain suite. To say it's not 1 life each time, it's 2. You're really going to tear your opponents down. It's not death by 1,000 cuts anymore. It's death by 10. And you're going to get them all down. And something great about all
1000%.
of these Dominuses, they have an effect that allows you to put an indestructible counter on it. And 8/3 is nothing to shake your head at. That's
Mhm.
pretty nice.
And
to
hey,
get in
we
there.
are going to be throwing creatures in the yard. So I mean, hey, I think the second ability should be pretty easy to do.
Yeah, exiling 3 creature cards from your graveyard will be extremely easy to do. And that's another great thing about these aristocrats. Like, yes, we've mentioned they're all 1/1s. They can all be recurred with Shirray, but it's not like exiling them feels bad
Right.
because they're only 1/1s.
Mhm.
They're just little bitty pieces. It's okay if they're gone because the deck is full of more. You said at the beginning, like, I have plenty of creatures in this deck, more creatures than expected in a mono black deck.
Mhm.
And this is the exact reason why, because Shirray is going to make use of every single one.
Exactly. Especially when some of those abilities overlap. Hey, I can lose some. Not a big deal.
Exactly. We have mentioned that you've got a pretty classic drain package in this deck. A very straightforward Aristocrats drain package. I want to mention that I like Serrated Scorpion.
But yeah,
Serrated
he's so
Scorpion
fun.
is 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life when it dies. This is a 1 creature Blood Artist that says, I don't need Blood Artist to do the damage. I'll do it myself.
Dude, right. That in Tattered Mummy is kind of in that same vein.
Yes.
It's when it dies, each opponent loses 2 life. I love that guy.
I think that's great fodder. And these are the ideal cards to be sacrificing to Priest of Forgotten God or something like that.
Mhm.
Saying these cards are going to do the job by themselves. I don't need another piece on the board to get that draining to start happening.
1000%.
And then you have this amazing finisher in this deck to be able to use all of the extra mana that you've been storing up. Tell us about this finisher, man.
Exsanguinate. Hopefully. Well, I mean, usually if you see this card, it's probably the end of the game.
Yep. It should be.
But it should be. But 2 black and X, each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So hopefully I'm just nonchalantly stacking up my treasures throughout the game. Maybe I've got some mana dorks on board, and then hey, it's my turn, and suddenly we're draining the table for 20, and we're shuffling up for the next one.
And you're gaining 60 if not.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. 3 people are out, and if not all 3 of them are out, then you are like firmly on the throne in the winning position after having played Exsanguinate. I think that's
Yeah.
what I like about this card so much is that life gain at the end. Like, here, win the game, and if you don't, you should be winning soon.
Right.
You should be winning soon unless your opponent can make some fantastic comeback, in which case they'll have earned it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Veto is in this deck, so
Yeah.
Exsanguinate paired with Veto, always kind of nice when that happens.
Insane. Well, Veto is just good. I mean, he's a replacement, what's it called? Sanguine Bond.
Mhm.
Whenever you gain life, an opponent loses life. All of these drainers, Zulaport Cutthroat, Blood Artist, all of them are, I think Bastion of Remembrance is a drain
Yeah.
also. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So having just a single one of those, plus veto, having veto with 1 power. Oh
That's
no,
all
he's
it
got
takes.
Sanguine Bond on the board. Let me remove it. Shirray says, why are you trying? Why are you trying?
Why even try?
But yeah, being able to turn that drain into still yet more life loss is a really great move. Lastly, we love seeing some synergistic lands in here. Lands that are not only going to generate you mana, but can help you do the game plan. In this case, sack outlets. It is so important to have a sack outlet in the deck on a land. You want as many as you can, because like we already mentioned before, at minimum, we need to be able to make 4 sacks a turn. And again, that's our modest one. So Ashnod's and Phyrexian Altar are, of course, going to let us get as many as we want. But if those don't show up, we've got Phyrexian Tower, a legendary land that taps for 1 colorless, or you can tap, sack a creature, add black. An excellent land, always coming in clutch whenever you need 1 more sack or that little bit of extra mana in order to play that last card, to end the game. High Market, yet another one. This is great for just, I got to get that death trigger, or I got to get that last ETB. High Market, tap for 1 colorless, or tap, sack a creature, you gain 1 life. We've joked in our meta that if a card said tap, sacrifice a creature, do nothing, we'd probably play it.
Hey, it's
like if it was free
trigger.
and it said tap, sacrifice a creature, do nothing, we'd probably play it. So gaining 1 life is just is nice, but
I don't
not
need
even
it, but I'll
necessary
take
to
it.
make this card good. What'd you say?
I don't need it, but I'll take it.
Exactly. And then, because we're mono black, there's no reason you shouldn't be running these last 2. Talk about these last 2.
Right. These last 2, I've got Cabal Stronghold here. Tap it for colorless, or, funny enough, a 3, and then tap it, add 1 black for each basic swamp you control. I hope in monocolor decks you're running those basics. In this one, we're running about 29 of them. So we're hoping to ramp off of that pretty nice. On that off chance we need to hard recast Shirray or get into Exsanguinate or any of those other fun spells. And then last one is going to be, hey, Cabal Coffers. Come on now.
Gotta have it.
Man.
No reason not to have it. If you're in mono black and you want free black mana just for playing the game, you play Cabal Coffers and Cabal Stronghold. Dude, I love this deck. It's straightforward. Yeah, it's mono black aristocrats, but I see some insightful building in here, especially where we find these 1 power creatures that just have so much value, knowing that you're going to get their ability 4 times a turn cycle. That makes this deck so much fun to look at, see, play with, play against. I'm really glad that you brought in some mono black for us to look at. Do you have any words of wisdom? What are some things people should think about if they want to play a Shirray Shizo's Caretaker deck?
Don't cut that land.
Amazing advice, dude.
Because
Such great advice.
Because when I first built this deck, I think I was running maybe 32 lands, and that's only because I justified it as it's a bunch of 1/1s. They're typically low cost. They're usually getting me ramp, but it just wasn't cutting it. Switched it over to 36. Hey, it's running
Solved
smooth.
all your problems.
No, literally, honestly.
Yeah. This is how you play the game, and it makes it so different from so many other card games. There are lots of card games out there where they've handled the resource management for you, but Magic was really kind of a pioneer in that your resources, you're in charge of that. That makes Magic really special and so tailored so specifically to the way you want to play. I think it's really cool.
I feel with every color obviously is good at doing its own thing. So the only challenge, not so much with Shirray, but just any monocolor deck, is just being able to dig through those colors and figure out, okay, how do I do the blue things? How do I do the green things? But do it in my singular color. So if you can figure that out, hey, you can make it work.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Keenan, for talking about your deck with us. How can people find you?
Yeah. Right now, I'm just on Instagram. My handle is just Commander. I hardly know her. I'll just in one. I'm
Yeah.
still shocked that I got that. I have no idea how that wasn't taken already. So I'm
Yeah, same. I've been saying for the past couple of days, talking to my wife and talking to the guys, I was like, yeah, I got a guest. It's Commander, I hardly know her. And every person has given me a chuckle for that. I think
Yes.
it's a great find. I think you're pretty
Nice.
lucky to have gotten that name.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Commander, I hardly know her on Instagram. Brucesh Friday. Keenan, keep them coming, man. I really enjoy seeing all the brews you come up with. It helps me get that fire lit under me to continue my deck brewing. I'm so thankful to have had you on the episode today.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say thanks for having me, Travis, and like, hey, ever since that Ovid deck came out, like that's, I bet that's what started it all.
The beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Just one single tear rolled down my cheek.
Thank you so much. Listeners, remember that you can contact us directly at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. And tune in next time for a good deck. This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.